a computer,
I'd like to call the Village of Oldering Lake October 9th meeting to order, please. Stand for the pledge of the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Scott.
Here.
York.
Here.
Nicholas.
Here.
Dumont.
Here.
Duff. Malik.
Here.
Nedrow.
Here. As far as additions to business, we have a couple gentlemen here from the 52nd First Court, and we'd like to add them to the agenda under new business item pre-A for an update.
Can we excuse Mark Duff's
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
absence, please?
Motion by Dumont to excuse Mr. Duff.
Have
Second
we
by
heard
Mr.
from
Report.
him, or?
Yes, yeah.
Okay,
He did
thank
send an email, so I apologize on that one, so. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. He's out of town on business, by the way, so.
Thank you.
Okay, so if we could add 52nd District Court to 3A. I think that, is there any other additions to business? No. Seeing none other. Correspondence and information. We
We're going to
had-
approve the agenda.
Huh? Oh, yeah, we need to approve the agenda first.
Or, sorry.
I'll make that motion.
Motion to add that to the agenda.
Yeah, with the addition of
Yes, sure.
the 3A.
Second.
That was a motion by Sinkowitz, second by Dumont. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now we're on correspondence. I've been out of it for a month. We just had a notice from Great Lakes Restoration for October 18th meeting, and notice of the Oakland County millage renewal, which is going to be coming up for vote for November, on November 5th, which is just a renewal, no increase. And that's about it, so. Received a motion to receive file.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Malik, second by Dumont to receive and file correspondence. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. First call to the public. It's an opportunity for citizens to address council on agenda items only. So if you'd like to, Mark?
Mark Jeremini, 2459 Oakview Drive. I'd like to talk about the Park Center. Parks and Rec is obviously the biggest driver in this, and things that we do, you know, Easter Bunny Lunch, Tuesdays in the Park, Snacks with Santa, corn roast, bus trips, all those things, except for the bus trips, obviously, are things that we think could be used at the new Park Center to expand those events, improve those events, and add more to them to make them even more enjoyable for all those involved. Additionally, having a building of that nature would significantly reduce the daytime stress on the volunteers, because currently for events like Tuesdays in the Park or the corn roast, volunteers have to go down here to the village hall during work hours to collect the necessary materials, going into the back room where there is a variety of things that are intermixed with their stuff as well, figure out what's needed, organize it, collect it, put it in their car, time following, return it all. Making it a very big demand on the time, not just the event itself, but in prep and cleanup of those events. As I said, we do a lot of these events, and we would be able to add more events as we have more options available with that building. And the things that we are talking about in this building, the things we'd like to have in this building, aren't just randomness. They're based on our experience and our input with you. Having proper and effective communication is important to that. And the last thing I'd just like to add is the added sense of community created by having a place where we can come together, a place where lake and non-lake residents can come together to engage in activity, which is the heart of what Parks and Recreation does. Bring people together from all around the community to engage in fun and even sometimes educational activities. You don't need lake access or even a village address to enjoy the things offered by Parks and Recreation. A park is open to everyone, regardless of age, geography, or any other identifier. How can we not want to increase these kinds of offerings and opportunities? We have children in the playgrounds, teens on the baseball fields, 20-somethings on the basketball court, 30-somethings running the trail, 40-year-olds walking their dog, and 50-plus playing pickleball in the tennis courts. The park offers more to more people than anything else in the village, and an effectively designed park center would only enhance that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
Well said.
Anybody else? The first call. Yes, sir. You can state your name and address.
Hi, Dave Arbogast, 785 Laguna. I saw on the agenda, maybe it's further down, maybe I'm premature, but we're going to talk about the ordinance change for noxious weeds.
That's correct.
Okay. Maybe I just missed it. I didn't see the language for the new ordinance. Are we going to discuss that?
Yeah, regarding the posting changes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
it's in
great.
there.
I'll wait
Yeah.
for that.
Okay.
Thank you.
We're introducing it tonight, correct?
You are
just
adopting.
Adopting.
Adopting
Okay.
it with the red line that we have
Yeah.
noted in there, the
Yeah.
addition from last month.
Seeing anybody else? Close the first call to the public and move on to consent agenda. So we got the regular minutes from council meeting from last month. We got the warrants for September. We got the receive and file the department reports and meeting minutes from the boards. So,
I'll make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
motion by York, second by Dumont. Any discussion?
If you don't mind, Mr. President, I attended, as I do once a month, the board meeting for Leyland, Lakes Area Youth Association. We had a report back on Taste of the Lakes. It was a good fundraiser. It is been somewhat in a diminishing direction. So the board had some discussion what to do, and I have now become, I guess involuntarily, but with volunteer, desire and drive the new committee chair for the marketing and advertising committee over there. But they did want me to pass along a great thank you to the village and the village residents for the contribution that is made annually to Leyland. And that's the only thing I need to say right now.
Thank you. Okay, that, all in favor?
Aye.
Oh, roll call, I'm sorry. Roll call vote.
Scott,
Yes.
York,
Yes.
Singleton,
Yes.
Dumont.
Yes.
Yeah, Mallon,
Yes.
and Nunde.
Yes. Thank goodness we're through that. Okay, board appointments. We've got, first of all, recommendation from the planning commission for Brandon Thorne, who is here. And so that he'll be filling a term to expire December 31st of 2020. So, Brandon's been in the village almost a year. Lives over off of Laguna Court, and got some kids. And served on, I know, planning commission meeting, he served, we've discussed, he's been on a homeowner association where he was previously in his other house, and he'd like to help the planning commission, help the village, so. Brandon?
Do you need a motion?
Yeah, motion to,
So moved.
Second.
motion by Dumont, second by Malik, I guess.
Don't matter.
Doesn't matter, yeah.
Beat you.
To,
We're all gonna vote.
appoint Brandon Thorne to the planning commission. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Great.
We don't let
We got to swear
volunteers
you in,
slip away.
Right hand, repeat after me. Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution of this state,
and the Constitution of this state,
and that I will faithfully perform the duties of the office
and I will faithfully perform the duties of the office
of Planning Commission
of Planning Commission
in and for the village
in and for the village
of Wolverine Lake,
of Wolverine Lake,
County of Oakland,
County of Oakland,
State of Michigan,
State of Michigan,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God. Thank you.
Sure.
Sorry I didn't dress to impress today, I'm still working, but I do appreciate the opportunity that you guys are giving me. And I look forward to having a voice in the community. So,
Thanks for
thank
stepping
you.
up.
Thanks,
Brandon.
Brandon.
For coming out.
Thank you for stepping up.
Absolutely.
See you at the next planning commission meeting.
Yes.
Okay, secondly, we have reappointment of Mike Sargent to the Water Management Board. Term to expire December 31st of 2022. And John, you want to speak to that? I think Mike's doing a great job, right?
Yeah, he is doing a good job. Of course, hopefully by the end of this session, he'll have his master's in the very subject that we study on the water board. Then he goes in for his PhD in limnology. So I can only say he's a great member of the board and a good leader. So let's get him in there. I guess I make a motion to accept the board's recommendation to reappoint Mike Sargent to
Second.
the board.
Motion by Scott, second by Sinkowitz. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And Mike, I don't believe is here. Moving on to presentations. Introduction and swearing in of Reserve/Marine Officer Enrico Bencina, who is more than well qualified. If you read his resume,
Yeah.
lengthy resume.
I'll make this rather quick because his resume is rather long. Mr. Bencina, actually Deputy Commander Bencina, he's worked for Oakland County Sheriff's Department as a reserve officer for over 30 years, 27 of those years in the Marine Division. He's currently the commander of the Reserve Division and teaches at the academy. So he was some of our the instructors for some of our officers that are currently working in Marine Patrol. Obviously, he brings a great wealth of knowledge to our department. He also is a certified instructor in boater safety, which we can bring back in-house again. Snowmobile safety, hunter safety, as well. I could go on and on, but I'm not going to. He's well qualified for the position, and he actually wants to work here, and we're excited to have him if he'll have him. So, Mr. Rico Bencina, why don't you step up here real quick? If you have any questions for him, keep in mind he'll have the answers. I hope so. Just so we're clear, he currently works for Oakland County Homeland Security, and because he works for Oakland County Homeland Security, he can't work Marine Patrol because it would be a conflict with too many hours. I told him we're going to put him to work then if he wants to work on the weekends too. So, any questions?
No?
If you've read his resume, it's
Yeah.
rather impressive.
We're looking forward to it.
Looking
Yeah,
forward to it.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you. I look forward to working with everyone here in the community. I know in the past I had the opportunity to teach a lot of classes here over the years, and I hope to bring that back and get a little bit closer again with the residents and yourselves. So look forward to it.
Great.
Thank
Great.
you very much.
Super. With that,
Yeah. Come around and shake a hand.
I was much younger.
we need a motion, right?
Me too.
I'll make the motion to swear in Reserve Marine Officer Rico Bencina.
Second.
Motion by York, second by Dumont. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Swear you in, and then.
To the round table. Gonna work for you?
Do you solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States
I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this state,
and the Constitution of this state,
and that I will faithfully perform
and I will faithfully perform
the duties of the office of
the duties of the office of
Reserve Marine Officer
Reserve Marine Officer
in and for the village of Wolverine Lake,
in and for the village of Wolverine Lake,
County of Oakland,
County of Oakland,
State of Michigan,
State of Michigan,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God. Thank you. Want to sign in the right place.
You're the new mayor.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Chief.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Look forward to closer. Thanks.
Is there next in line?
Thanks for coming on board.
Welcome aboard.
Okay, moving on. Recommendation and update from Engineer Mr. Powell.
Thank you, Mr. President and Council. First item that I'd like to bring you up to date on is the Benstein Road pathway. Obviously, we've been planning on this for a long time. Due to the inability of us to receive the easements along the future road right-of-way, we have designed the pathway to be in the road right-of-way. That's 33 feet from the center line of Benstein Road in towards the village of Wolverine Lake. To make sure that we don't go on private property, we did have to have the survey done by a professional surveyor. Mr. David Smith completed that last week. We have those plans. He actually placed an iron in the ground where the property lines are. We anticipate that at least one or two of the property owners will wonder what's going on in their front yard, and we will assure them, and obviously we're going to talk with all of them ahead of time, that it is in the road right-of-way. We will have a permit from the road commission to do this work. We plan on having the bids for the new work on your table here next month, so that we can actually do it this fall yet. So we've had to, as I told you last month, we actually have to have curbing put in the road right-of-way in certain areas because we're approaching very close to the edge of the road. The road commission walked it with Administrator Smith and I, and they're in agreement with what we need to do. So that being said, next month I anticipate having a much more immediate report for you, letting you know what the dates of the actual start of that's going to be. That being said, I could use a little bit of advice from council. We had the project designed all the way to the south right-of-way or the south property line of the Dairy Twist. I think council knows that there's an issue there about crossing that property.
Mm-hmm.
If we stay within the road right-of-way, that's still not going to make that property owner very happy. But we do have the legal right to stay on road commission right-of-way and go across his frontage of his property all the way to Glengarry Road. And if we do that, then we have to then create a up-ramp on the north side of Glengarry Road as well. That work along that property was not included in the budget for that pathway. We were stopping short. And I just wanted to confirm that it would be proper then to design that section of pathway in all the way up to Glengarry Road, or should I leave it where it's currently designed at the south side of the Dairy Twist?
I'd like to see it go all the way up to the road, and that's because, if I remember right, if it ends at the Dairy Twist, then it ends in lawn, basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but now keep in mind that since we do have the right-of-way to go further north, we could stop right at his southerly entrance there on Benstein Road, or stop short, or continue all the way. So that's kind of why it's more of a budget item. I know it's council's desire to do it, but I want to make sure that you're aware that there will be a budget issue, keeping in mind that 1/3 is paid by Oakland County and 1/3 is paid by the road commission as well. So we'd be paying 1/3 of whatever increase there.
Mike, if you run it right up to the south end of Glengarry, do you have to have something on the other side of the road too?
We do. The ADA requirements require a pickup ramp on the north side of the road as well.
We don't have to put a sidewalk any
We
farther?
don't have to go any further. We'll have to create a crosshatch, but we don't have to extend the pavement across there.
Will we have a crosshatch across his driveway?
We don't normally put them across driveways, but we certainly could.
I agree that I think going right to Glengarry and across, because if you get there, there's always people that are crossing it, and it, just on the lawn, I think it makes sense to carry it on that extra 30 or 40 feet, or whatever it is.
It may encourage our neighbors to continue it as well.
I believe that they are looking at that,
Good.
as a matter of fact.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to do it while we're doing the
Yeah.
project anyways.
Well, this
We're
is
not
the
gonna get it
time
done
we
any
can get
cheaper.
the sharing too, correct?
That is
If we
correct.
Wait,
Take
we'll
advantage
lose
of it.
that.
Right, yep.
That is correct.
Go for
Okay.
it.
Go
All right.
for it.
I agree.
Appreciate that. Very good. So if there are no other questions, I'll go to the Greenaway Drain update. Greenaway, the DEQ is still working with us. It was delayed sufficiently to where, in my working with the DEQ, the same personalities are there. However, they've instituted this year a revised application. I had a previous application in the old-fashioned way, written on a form and signed and sealed and sent in. They now require everything to be updated and put online. It's called mywaters.com. And so we've completed that new application. It's before them right now. They still want us to do the work in November, December, in the low flow seasons, which is really now through the first of the year. And so we still have plenty of time to do that, and I will be bringing back before you at your next meeting the bids to be able to do that work. It's going to be, I'm going to leave the actual process up to the contractor, so I can get more contractors. You can either do a hydraulic dredging, which they use a big muck machine that pumps it out, pumps it into bags, and they let it dewater and then haul it away. Or they have a big arm, the big tractors that have an arm that they can actually scoop it out and drop it in the back of trucks. It'll be one of those two methods. The DEQ approves both those methods, and so I'll be bringing those bids back.
Mike, are you planning to add more gabion wall or repair what's there or what?
That is a routine maintenance item that can be done by the DPW, and so yes, after we get done with the dredging work, that will open up the area for the DPW to come in and redo all those gabion baskets.
Is it currently at the elevation we want it, or is it below?
It is, that's a loaded question, because the two sides are right at the elevation we want. The center is dipped,
Okay.
and so it would be straight across
All right.
when DPW gets done.
Okay, good. Thank you.
All right, the last item is the aforementioned survey done by David Smith, DPS and A Associates. The cost to do all the topographic survey and staking out of all those lots along Benstein Road came to $3,875, and it's my recommendation that council pay the surveyor that did that work for us.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Dumont, second by Sinkowitz. Any discussion?
Does that include was there any surveying required on the north side of Glengarry for that new cut?
There is just at the corner there.
Just at the
and
corner.
those grades were
So
picked up
that's
as well.
included in here.
I do want to remind council that even this work is shared by the county.
Okay.
So, yes.
Great. Okay. Motion on table. All in favor? Oh, roll call, sorry. Roll call again.
You got Scott,
Yes.
York,
Yes.
Sinkowitz,
Yes.
Dumont,
Yes.
Mallett,
Yes.
Rendro.
Yes.
Thank you, council, very much.
Thank you, Mr. Powell. Thank you. We have no public hearings, so moving next agenda item is new business pre-A, which is, we've got Judge Travis Reeds and Judge David Law here from 52nd District Court for an update. Evening, gentlemen.
Good evening. Judge Law likes to start, so I don't want to step on. Hi, good evening, everybody. Judge David Law with Travis Reeds, and Rob Bondi, the third judge in the district court, can't be here tonight, but he wanted us to pass along his regards as well. We just wanted to come back tonight, maybe every couple of years, not wear out our welcome too much, but just come back, give a little bit of an update about the court and what we do, how we do it. So that's the main reason we're back here. In addition, Judge Reeds, I think, will back me up. We like to come back and see what Chief Ellsworth is up to, too. Kind of follow him around a little bit, see what's out, if he's working as hard as he's claiming every time he's in court. See if he's sweating over here like he's telling us 24/7. So we like, so we like to come back and follow up on him. We want to talk a little bit about what we do and how we do it. Briefly, I'm sure everyone on the village council knows, but just for anybody that may not, the jurisdiction that the court covers is pretty large. A lot of communities. Obviously, the village of Wolverine Lake and Commerce Township, Walled Lake, Wixom, South Lyon, Lyon Township, Novi. And then we'll move over to Milford, the village, as well as the township, Highland Township. What did I miss? I think I did South Lyon. So obviously a large area, right? And we as judges feel very fortunate to have Wolverine Lake in that list of communities that we serve. We don't get a lot of crime out of there, very good residents, nice people. We appreciate working with the council when we need to, or if there's an issue there, it's easy to do. Your police department does a wonderful job. And I'm not just saying that because the chief is here, but it's good for him to hear it. They do, and you know that. When they're in on a matter testifying, I know the testimony's gonna come out clean, it's gonna come out well. They work hard, they do a good job. And I'm very professional, that's the right word to use. I also want to compliment your attorneys, and I think I did that the last time I was here too. They do a wonderful job representing the village. Jennifer, we know, and Scott, obviously, we see every Tuesday. He does a wonderful job for you as well. What's important, I personally believe, from a village, city, prosecutor perspective, residents come in, they're not always happy, right? Something's going on, they may be pulled in on something, maybe something small, something large, but I know they feel like they're heard by their village attorney, by the village prosecutor when they come in and try and resolve something. And he does a wonderful job working stuff out where it should be worked out. If something needs to be tried, there's no other alternative, he's gonna try it, and he can try it very well. So I felt that was important to say before we go further.
So the court has three basic divisions. We have a civil division where we handle cases up to $25,000, contract cases, auto-related cases, things like that, collection cases. We have a criminal division, which handles everything from misdemeanors to felonies. We start all the felonies in Michigan, start in our court, and then they move up to the circuit court if there's enough after a preliminary exam to send them there. But the misdemeanors are what we primarily do, and we have a whole division department devoted to that. And we also have a fairly large, what we call a traffic division. So the 52nd District Court, because it has such a big footprint, there are multiple law enforcement agencies enforcing traffic codes and so on, and there's an extremely high volume of traffic tickets. I'm talking about speeding tickets and stoplights and things like that that we process through the court. I would say on average around 50,000 cases a year get processed through the 52-1 District Court, and each of the three of us handle 1/3 of those cases. A lot of them are very, very quick, and some of them we don't even see at all, like a speeding ticket, for example. People can pay them online now. We've had some technological advances to try to make all that process a little easier on people that are going to work and trying to find time to get their business handled. We don't want them to have to necessarily take a day off of work to come to court if they can handle certain things online. And then some of them take a little bit longer. The criminal cases obviously take a lot longer, and some of the civil cases can be fairly complex and can last months and months, sometimes over a year, actually. But we have a great staff. We have about 67 people that work at your court. And we're very proud of the work that we do there. Things seem to be going really smoothly. If you want to see your attorney in action, come on over on a Tuesday, and you can watch them in court and see that they do a great job.
When Judge Reeds talks about the cases that we handle, not everyone understands. I like to talk about the stages of a case. So basically, if a criminal case, that's mainly what we handle. That's the bulk of the cases that we handle. When a criminal case comes in the door, there's an arraignment where the person is told what the charges are that are being brought against them. Then a pretrial hearing's held further down the road, or could even be the same day. That's where the defendant will decide whether or not they want a trial or admit that they did something wrong and enter a plea of guilty. They can do it that way. Or further down the road, we'll have a trial. After that, if the person is convicted either by a judge at a bench trial or the jury, obviously, then we would have a sentencing stage a little bit further down the road. And typically, Judge Reeds, Judge Bondy, and myself, most cases will send that defendant down for an interview with the probation department. I get asked quite often as a judge, how do you sentence somebody? How do you determine what your sentence is going to be? And that's where I'm getting with this whole process of a case. When we're to the sentencing stage, I'll have an interview done by a probation officer with that defendant. So that's where I get the information, and we try and zero in with our sentence. It's not just off the wall, and we don't just make it up. That morning, there's typically a rhyme or reason, we would hope, to what we do. So if the case is in front of us and we see through the interview and reviewing the report that that person maybe has an alcohol problem, drug problem, mental health issue, we try and focus our sentence, the aspects of the sentence, the parts to counseling for alcohol or drugs, mental health things along those lines, to try and get them some help so that they can move on, be productive, and then not just keep in that vicious cycle coming back to court, right? That's the main thing of it. So we find that, I would say it's extremely, or very, beneficial for us to get those reports done. And we treat, it also helps us treat everybody differently. because not everybody's the same. The threat level's not the same on a defendant. Some people may be at a bad night, one bad night made a poor choice, and they're in court now dealing with it. And then you've got the frequent flyers, right, that continually come in and continually put people at risk. And we have to treat, as the police do too, have to treat those people differently. And that's where we get that information through those pre-sentence reports.
To try to individualize that consequence to them. So Wolverine Lake, as Judge Law said, is really not only a nice place to live, but it's a very safe community. Again, in large part due to your law enforcement and Chief Ellsworth, but we like to think we have a little bit of a part in that too. Wolverine Lake had 5 felonies last year, the lowest of any of the communities we serve. That's fantastic. 16 drunk drivings, which again, I think is down from last year. So those are good numbers, very good. It's lower than population-wise than the state average. So again, very safe community, and we're proud to serve it in that regard.
Yeah, relative to what we see population-wise, it's very low.
The other thing that we wanted to bring you up to speed on is some of our special programs that we're all very proud of. One of those programs is what we call our Consequences of Decision-Making program. It's a modification of an old dormant program where we take actual court cases, used to be called Court and School, we've changed it around. We take actual court cases into the local high schools and now even into the middle schools. And we try to teach the young people about government, the judicial branch of government, but we also want to show them the mistakes that other people have made and the consequences that can come from those bad decisions so that they don't end up in front of us. Because we'd rather have 0 cases to deal with every year. But the point is to try to get out in the community.
Particularly with young people.
Right, so we want to try to help them learn before they make the mistake and show them the real life consequences. And we handpick the cases. We want to make sure that if we can, we get defendants who are younger so they're more relatable. An old person like me, if I go into the high school, they think, oh, that'll never be me. But if it's someone who's 20 and who was in high school a few years before, and here they are in front of a judge and maybe getting handcuffed and going to jail or getting a long term of probation with counseling and big fines and all these other things, that there's a little bit of a wow factor there that we think is impactful. So
Yeah,
we're proud of that program.
And impactful is the key. That's picking the right cases to come in front of the students, we think is very, very important. So getting the types of cases, the types of issues that the young people today are dealing with, things they're faced with, choices they're going to have to make. So bringing somebody in front of them, maybe on a pretrial where the person's admitting, yeah, I stole something from the mall, or I drank when I shouldn't have, or went driving after I'd been drinking, whatever the issue may be that young people are facing today, having somebody come in either on a pretrial or a sentencing on a similar issue that maybe they'll have faced or will be facing in the future, even a probation violation. Having a younger person come in that's violated probation and maybe he's going to jail for a few days. And we'll have them cuffed right there in the courtroom or in the auditorium of the high school and taken away. Impactful, right? Now, those people that come in, and I want to make this, there's been questions about this, I want to make sure it's clear. That's voluntary for the defendants to come in and do that in front of the students. We don't force them to do it, but many times defendants realize they did something wrong and they want to make amends to that. They want personally to get through it, but they also want to be able to help society with what they did wrong. And they're usually more than willing, actually eager, to come in and participate in that program. We'll even have defendants turn and start talking to the students who are in the auditorium and say, you know what, it wasn't that long ago I was sitting in your chair. Maybe it was 2 years ago I was sitting in your chair, faced with the decisions you're facing right now. And, you know, here I am, and I made some poor choices, and fix it before you end up in my shoes. Generally pretty impactful. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you for having that. The other things we wanted to bring you up to speed on are our specialty court programs, they're called. It's a very hot topic now across the state. More and more courts are getting them. So what I'm talking about is programs like our sobriety court program. We have a drug court program, and we have a veterans treatment court program. They're all a little different, and they all have different targeted audiences. Obviously, veterans can only come into the veteran program. But we tailor those probationary terms to the particular target group, and we try to give them the access to the tools that they need to get their lives under control. For the most part, these are people who are not what Judge Law referenced, the person who just came in one time and is never coming back. They learn their lesson very easily, and they move on with their lives. These are people who are struggling to be in control and oftentimes aren't in control when they start. And we want to get them in the resource, get them in connection with those resources, like the VA for a veteran. Many veterans don't want to go to the VA. They don't trust the government. They have wounds that you can't see that they bring home. And so we try to get past that, and sometimes we nudge them, we force them to try to get to those programs and get the help that they've earned. And the transformation that you can see at the graduation ceremonies, it's a wonderful thing. It's one of my favorite things about being a judge is to participate in programs like that. We have a graduation actually coming up November 18th, I believe.
Is that the date?
It's going to be at the Wixom VFW Hall, and we had a little trouble with our invites. Everyone on the council should be getting an invite.
We're fixing that right now.
We
so
just learned at South Line when we did this presentation a few weeks ago that that's not happening for some reason, so.
Invites aren't going out, we're told.
It's, if you have time, it takes about an hour, hour and a half for the program. It's really impactful for us to see the graduates and all the progress they've made and the jobs that they have, and their family life is back in action, and they're just in great shape.
And last thing I guess I want to say, I realize you have a lot more to do tonight, so we're trying to be quick. But that's another question I get quite often is what's my favorite part of being a judge? Participating in that sobriety court program, overseeing those cases, and the drug court program is really, I would say, the most favorite thing, my favorite thing that I get to participate in as a judge. And then being able to go to those graduation ceremonies where people have made an 18-month program, made it through, and are successful. It's very impactful on me as a judge to be able to sit there and watch that graduation. Real quick, thanks. Real quick,
Well, you're getting a lot of.
I'm going to come back here every month. So the sobriety court, drug court, vet court, those are different than a typical sentence. Normally, I'll sentence somebody, they go on their way. I may never see them again if they don't violate probation. In these matters, like Judge Reed said, it's a much more intensive program. They're in front of us monthly. They're in front of probation officers monthly. We build kind of a rapport with them, and we continually get them in counseling services throughout the 18 months. It's a very intensive program. But many times, a majority of the participants make it through successfully and continue on in their lives and never have a relapse.
Just number-wise, it's probably, we have, I think we're at about 140 people right now in the various different programs. So they're pretty good-sized programs. And, lastly, we want to always welcome anyone who wants to come. This is your court, not our court. We just work there. You're welcome to come. We'll give you a tour. I always have a pot of coffee on. I'm the coffee guy.
Yeah. So I don't know if anybody has any questions. We did bring some newsletters. We've left some here up at the table, so if anybody wants to grab those on the way out, some good reading material to put you to sleep tonight. So, anybody got any questions for us? Or?
Thanks for putting us on the agenda, too.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
Thank you for coming. Yeah,
Thanks for coming.
thanks for the update.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Everybody's bailing. We should take a second. Take a recess for a second. Till Mr. York gets back.
No.
Mr. Condack bailed.
They both failed together.
And just take a second until Mr. Dumont gets out. Or you're still in, Mr. York, sorry. It's an off night. It's an off night.
Weather was nice.
Track, yeah. Holy moly.
Right?
Yeah, well,
We can't start without him?
I guess we could. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so we've got the recommendation, purchasing an installation of a new generator at the village complex for about $35,000, not to exceed. So, Andy, let's start introduction on that.
Evening, council. A little bit of something to follow past those, your honors. Thank you for, making me show up after you, but they did a good job. Council, been working on this project for a couple of years now. Council asked me to investigate the generator setup that we have now is pretty antiquated. It was installed in 91 as far as the brain box and the setup of that. The actual generator unit itself is much older than that. I think it was purchased by Administrator
Kane?
Kane. And I think that was picked up on a used car lot someplace, and it's probably in the late 60s, early 70s range of a generator unit. It was hooked up with a 91 brain box on this. The unit is pretty antiquated for these times. We can't get any replacement parts for it whatsoever. We've had some malfunctions with it and figured out how to make it work. That was through the Cummins generators that, basically, it's time for an update here for this complex. I've researched 5 different companies, only 3 of which were comfortable in bidding. And that being is that I also included, as council, per council's wishes, including the 2 municipal well sites that we have as well, and putting standby. We do have mobile generation for both of those places. Council was interested in looking at having permanent standbys for them at that time. Most of the companies that I found, they weren't very comfortable or have the knowledge of how those pumps, either the draw and the brain box that takes for shifting pumps over and transferring standby power for those units. Thus, researching 5 different companies, I only had 3 bids, and there was only one that I felt very comfortable with that actually deals with this industry as well. It's Kennedy Industries out of Wixom. They deal with companies as large as DTE, power generating plants, and Detroit Water and Sewer. And they also supply the standby power for those units as well. Thus, my recommendation to go with a company that I feel comfortable with in knowing the knowledge of the power draws that we're dealing with on these different situations. Most critical would be the village complex here, as we do have mobile standby units for the municipal water supplies. The standby unit here it's hard to say whether it's going to actually activate when it's called for at this point in time. So it's something that's most critically needed. Originally, not knowing the numbers, Treasurer Condact and I kind of plugged in a number for the village hall of $25,000. With the full bid included with the electrical install, generator purchase, gas line install, our final number was $32,592. We were also entertaining the idea of extending into the DPW garage a little bit more, because right now we only have basically one spotlight going out there. We also were going to, from the electrician says, somewhere between $500 and $1,000 he can add on another circuit panel and make it talk to our circuit panel that goes into the DPW garage. So it's actually heading towards the south and not only towards the north front side of the building. That's the way the brain box is only communicating at this time. That being said, for this project, and as I've outlined in the cover sheet, that DPW would be doing the removal of the existing generator, building the cement pad for the new generator unit, which would be an exterior unit, and setting that unit on the pad, and at that point, contractors take over. The lead time on the once ordered for that unit for the village complex is somewhere between 6 and 8 weeks. That being said, again, the total number for that was $32,592 plus the $500 or $1,000 roughly for us to extend into the DPW garage. My recommendation is to approve the village generator not to exceed $35,000, so we have a little leeway inside that room to, there could be such, I'm not sure if our DPW tractor can actually handle the weight of these generators. It could be something as much as renting a heavier machine to be able to pull the old generator out, get the new generator in. A couple cost overruns, but we know we won't go over that number. That was all the council's wishes for me to research that, and it's as council pleases. Treasurer Kondak and I have talked about if we need to do any for the budget amendments this council discussed.
Andy,
Yes, sir.
when you say natural gas, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And will these go on if nobody's around? It's all automatic, they go on and everything like that?
100% natural gas, and then we'll probably, as the one does right now, or is supposed to, should cycle every week, exercise everything, and even under load.
Well, I'd like to make a motion on that one paragraph you have there that we do the 32, 5, 20, 92, and then as long as we're there, we might as well get it into the DPW truck base for $500 or $1,000 and not to exceed $35,000.
Motion by Sienkiewicz, second. Second by Mr. Malik. Discussion.
Andy, I have a couple questions for you, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I see the three quotes. The way I'm reading it, we had one from Generac, which is out of Wisconsin, if I remember. By the way, if you trade the stock, it was up substantially today. The other was Cummins, which actually is a partner with Generac. And then the one that you're recommending, I don't know if you know, is made in Turkey. Was there any comments relative to parts, issues of assembly? Seems to me the news today would indicate there's a little bit of an issue between us and Turkey. And I'm not looking at you and saying that, comes through your eyes. I just happened to have been in Istanbul once and did happen to see this, and I had no idea what they did, ASCA. And I do know the company, I looked it up. But I don't know if that makes a difference, but is that something you could check?
I didn't know that was going to happen today.
Well, I don't think anybody knew that decision was going to happen today. I guess my
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, just seeing if this is domestically assembled, if these are parts, I mean, the company is worldwide. They have Chinese operations, Japanese operations, South American operations. They're a very large company. But if you don't mind, just for my own interest, I was curious.
I understand where you're coming with that, and
because they said
Cummins was one of my first companies to go to.
Okay.
They were actually one of my, even though they have such a great brand name, they were one of my least impressive companies to be able to work with. And no disregard to Cummins themselves, but the guys spent very little time. The number was like, here it is.
Yeah, it's a one-pager.
And I had a lot of
see.
questions.
Yeah.
I got that bid a year ago. It was my first one, and it raised all kinds of questions. Actually, it was a great educator to me, because he, actually, if you look at that, he quoted, I think it was 200 and,
Are you talking about the Cummins bid right now, right?
yeah, it was, I think a 30 kW for the village hall, but I think it was 240 kW, 125 kW for the pump houses. He completely misunderstood, and I tried calling him back and talking to him. I don't need both pumps running alternately in that situation, and I just didn't get a whole lot of good feedback on that. Similarly with the Generac, that young man, he was a very good businessman. I think he knew what was going on when it came to residential units. I had 100% confidence in him in that. When I went to him with the pump houses, he didn't understand what was going on inside there. They just completely went really way over the top of it, and I don't blame him for that. It's not. It's a unique electrical plumbing / situation that he hadn't seen before. So that's when I researched and I found a company such as Kennedy that deals with both sides of that, and it made me feel very confident. They spent a lot of time in doing the research, checking out the wattages before even running at this. Now, this doesn't answer your questions as far as part availability, but this answers the question as to why I chose the company that I chose to choose to recommend, actually, is that they know their business, and they're dealing with such large companies that I think if they were to leave these companies, as large as I'm familiar with they're dealing with, high and dry, that there would be a
Oh, I don't disagree with that.
huge
I don't at
problem
all.
for
That's what
them
I said.
in their industry. They probably go down very quickly, so they must have a very large inventory of parts
Okay.
and structure on that. So I do have some confidence in that.
Who knows? I guess we'll know. Does this have I noticed that the Generac has a 10-year guarantee, or I should say warranty, or I guess I could use the words that I just read earlier this morning if I could even find them. But I didn't see where the K&J Ansky has an equal guarantee. Do you just know if there is a 5-year or 10-year equipment?
5-year comprehensive warranty.
Okay. I see it. Now I do see it, yeah. And they're not, it says here, we do not include offloading, installation, or site work, which you've explained.
That's correct. They're
I
gonna
think-
load test, everything gets load tested to make sure that, especially with the pump houses, that's kind of going into a second nature of this. But while we're on that, is that we'd have to load test to make sure the amperages, if council chooses to decide to do one of the pump houses, that they would come in and load test everything and check our amperages on every single leg and make sure that those pumps are working properly before the process even goes further, because it could have a pump that's got a strong leg on one side if they're running off of 3 legs, since it's 3-phase, and that's why the pump houses get a little bit stronger. One is, and there's different prices on those two. One's a single delta and the other with the generator process as well.
So am I to interpret that there needs to be a friendly amendment, that we're looking to do the village hall, and whether or not you're asking council to consider doing 1 or 2 additional at
Well,
this stage? I mean, is that?
Well, that's the second item.
That's the second item,
Yeah.
John.
Okay.
We separated them.
See, we did separate them. And then finally, I'm just, memory serves me correctly, you said they needed a crane to get the old one out? Is that still true, or am I?
Well, that's the way we got
it in
the
there,
old
right?
one in.
That's what I thought, yeah.
I'm gonna go back to the old Roman books and see if I can dig some dirt out and put
Okay.
something a little more, less expensive together. I think I can get that one out in some other methods.
Can
Even
you
if
do
it
anything
may
with that other one,
involve-
or is it just toast? Would anyone want to buy
We're
it?
gonna have to see. I mean, the motor runs, there might be somebody crazy enough to buy it.
There always is.
I don't know. I mean, it is a useful piece of equipment. It can still run. It's very dated, but, I mean, if there's a guy that, needs an F-350 motor, it's I don't know what to do. It's hard to say. Once we get it out of here, we can try and do it a different evaluation, whether it be scrap value or whether we could put it up on, we've had success before selling things on is it Craigslist or some of the other municipal supply magazines, and seeing what we can do with it, toss a bone out there and see if a dog will bite it.
Mr. Condick, is this something that we budgeted for?
We did.
Good.
Let me break it out, though.
It's just a 25, right?
Well, 25 was part of a larger number, close to 52, and included in that were other improvements in the DPW building, among them the floor that's already been done to the tune of $12K, and we were also going to do the approach area, the office, and what would, I guess you'd call it the bay nearest the village hall building, the police department. So our anticipated number for just the generator was $25,000. So if the question is, does that require a budget amendment? Unless and until I think we know the numbers for the other things we planned on doing, we're still within the amount of the budget right now, the amount
Now,
that we originally.
the second part of my question is the 2 for the wells in the,
Yeah.
does that come out of their?
Water fund?
That's a water fund expense.
Water fund money?
And what we had done this year was to budget for one of them to the tune of $30,000. So it's the decision, and if I'm getting ahead of myself, stop me, but the decision as to whether to do both would also require a budget amendment, although this time it would be on the water fund. And depending on circumstances, again, if we need to do that, I think the water fund has ample resources built up over time to allow us to do that. But again, just so you know, the original rationale was one this year, one next year.
Seems we dipped into the waterfront, if we, I know, maybe we should stick with the village
We'll-
generator
yeah, we'll-
first.
we'll
and-
address that on the next one.
Yeah, let's do
I
that.
think we're good, right? We got a motion.
I made a motion, was there a second?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Second,
Okay.
I do have a question. Where this generator sits is, you're putting up a lot of expense. Do we have some kind of a shield that stands up tall over it, protected from the snow and the sun and the rain?
It's got a cabin.
Yeah,
It's-
they're all-
I have no idea,
It's an all-weather cabin that's outside. Currently, the one we have, we built a room around it. It was boom lifted from a crane from the front of the building to the back of the building. We set on a cement pad, built the
Right.
building around it.
Okay.
We have a way we can open the building up, and it was brought up that saying, hey, why don't we just defluid everything and just let it sit there? I'm not a big proponent of that.
Well, that's
don't
why I
think
asked,
it's a good
it's a
idea.
big expense.
I think we can get that generator out of here, haul it through. Now, being that we put the addition on the back of the building here a couple of years ago, I can't get my backhoe through there anymore. So I have to depend on either, I don't think my tractor is gonna be able to lift it, but I might be able to drag it. It is plausible I might have to rent a piece of machinery to be able to help move this along for a day. And the same thing with entering the new one there. But it will be sitting exterior, but it's built with an exterior cabinet, basically right in the same spot that the other one is, but outside the building, yes.
There'll be room and work on it in that spot, won't there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Everything's good.
But it's just like your air conditioner at home after 10 years. The weather takes a beating to them, so that's why I asked the question now.
Yeah, the exterior boxes on these units are around $4,000 that they house on side of them, so it'll be fully serviceable from all angles.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, well, roll call vote, I guess.
Scott?
I will say yes. Andy, I would appreciate it if you would have the company indicate how long, that is Kennedy, they've been carrying this line of equipment from this company.
Okay.
Yes.
Sigmund?
Yes.
Dumont?
Yes.
Mallett?
Yes.
Nedrow?
Yes. We won't have to deal with a 1973 vintage generator anymore. Moving along to the second item, which was discussion on purchase and installation for both pump houses, that's Laguna and Penny Lake Pump House.
Yep, and again, that goes along with the exact same scope of work. The idea was that all three of these generators are gonna be identical to take care of, they're all gonna be 40 kWs, exact same units, ease of maintenance, repairs. They're all similar. That would be a small upgrade for the village unit from a 30 kW to a 40 kW, just as a information. It was, when I asked them the difference between those, right now we're running 30K, so it was like $2,000, but as I told them, I said, I'd rather err to the high side, so we aren't stressing an engine out as opposed to
Gives you a
the
little
low
bit of
side
room.
and kicking it, yeah. We budgeted $30,000, as Treasurer Condact said, for just to step into one of the pump houses. The prices on those two for Laguna Vista came in at $36,256, and for Penny Lake, $35,813. We budgeted $30,000 for that. So there's also, if you notice on the cover page, I did get a price for, we'd have to bump out the fence on those, and that price came in at $1,260 for bumping out the fences each.
Individually.
Individually, correct. Again, this would be at council's wishes. They asked me to research this, get the numbers on it. Treasurer Condact and I threw some crazy numbers at it to see until we found something that would stick. These are kind of our stick numbers. If it was council's pleasure to, increase, I think that would be for a total number of Penny Lake pump house would be $37,073. Laguna Vista would be $37,516 with the exact same scope of work. And that's with the fence built into that, okay? $1,260 for the fence. Same scope of work for DPW, building the pad, installing generator. Again, this council's wishes for me to investigate these measures. If it was council's pleasure to apply a standalone generator for one of these units, we still have mobile generation for the other pump house as well. If you were to ask me which one I would go with, you know the other one's gonna go out. So that's kind of a crapshoot. And historically, they actually have been, between the two pump houses, it's sporadic. One will be very consistent on when Laguna goes out, and then it's very consistent with Penny Lake, but they're never, rarely at the same time unless we have a very, catastrophic ice storm or something like that.
How long have they been down when they have been down? Days?
Well, yeah, they have been. They have been. And that,
I mean,
if they happen at the same time, if we had something as that, the whole eastern blackout, yeah, we lost water systems at that time, and everything had to go into notice to boil and refired up after the power was brought back in. They weren't able to operate the systems continuous at that time, and then we actually had 3 systems at that time. I think Helmsford was still online with us at that point in time as well. Which it happens. I've ran that mobile generator between all 3 pump houses as well. It's a long, busy time. But as you're dealing with, usually you're dealing with weather adversities as well. There will be ice storms, snowstorms, something of that nature. But it's not very often, John.
But that's why they're back up.
Well, Mr.
Are
Conley,
we doing 1 or 2?
they mentioned the water fund was budgeted for one. What about the second one? I mean, is it the water fund budgeted for both generators, for both pump houses?
No, we went into the year thinking that one would be replaced.
Okay.
But what I was trying to say earlier was that there are ample resources in the water fund to do both if we want to. We have a pretty good surplus built up there.
And you were thinking about budgeting for one this year and one for next year. Is correct?
That's what
That
we
was
approved.
the
That was
initial
the
thought
mindset
was.
that we had in
Okay.
May
Well,
when we did
Is
our.
there any disadvantage?
It's a
to doing
crapshoot.
both?
Like you said, you fix this one, that one's gonna go out, and you do both of them.
But we still have the mobile
Yeah.
generators, as Lee said.
Yeah.
so-
From an accounting standpoint.
I don't know if we're getting a better price by buying all 3, or if we buy both in the water fund. From an accounting standpoint, no, we have ample resources. It requires a budget amendment to the tune of about, if we budgeted 30, this is going to be about 75 by my reckoning, so $45,000 budget amendment. That's what.
For the water board?
For the water fund.
For the water fund.
Yes.
Water fund.
Yeah.
If I may step in on that, and I think that, that since we do have, in my recommendation, I think if it's council's wishes to do 1 unit, I would not recommend doing 2 units. I think there's some other maintenance issues that have just been brought up to me by the well company that we're looking at. We still have some tank cleaning and possibly some other things where some valve replacements that may come into some other funds that would be better utilized in towards maintenance and repair of the facilities in itself. I would not recommend both generators at this time. I can give you that.
Based on Andy's recommendation, I'd make a motion that we replace one of them with the new generator, but we're gonna let you pick the one.
Second.
Flip a coin, yeah.
So get out your lucky coin.
Second.
Well, I guess at that point, we'd have to figure out what the budget's gonna be.
Not to exceed,
Not
they're
to
both
exceed-
37,000 and
Say
change. so-
38,000.
not to exceed 39,000.
39,000?
That, you can, we'll make that part of the motion.
And we've had a second. Have you had any problems with either one more than the other one?
Well, it's what I was
No, I
kind of
know,
saying.
it's one of those, you
it's
say
kind
you're
of
gonna
a
pick one, the
crapshoot.
other one's gonna go south. but-
You know, I can say that DTE in the last 2 years has been doing such strenuous line work as far as the arborist divisions.
Right.
You know, you've seen it hard down
Oh, yeah.
Glengarry Road here, which is a big problem. They also work very hard down through Penny Lake Drive.
And they've
which
worked
is
through
one of
our
the staples
subdivision
coming
also,
through
so-
here. DTE, I gotta give them tons of accreditation and they've been great communicators in the work that they've been doing as well. They've really done, that was probably a 15-year cut that they did on
Yeah.
Glengarry Road there at least. So it's hard to say. They've actually invested their time and money into the lines around here. And even when we had the line break out on Glengarry here the other weekend, it didn't affect Manzano. I happened to run over and just check, and we still had power at that source. It's kind of a crapshoot. I'd have to do some thinking about that and see which one. It's a gamble.
Well, you mentioned one of them, that you had to do fence work. You have to do fence work at.
Each one would have to have a bump out to include the proper maintenance area around them. It's basically a 5-foot by 10-foot extension bump out on any of the, either of the
Yeah.
fencing areas.
I don't think you'll see them on the map.
Okay, any other discussion? There was a motion by Sankwitz, second by Dumont, I believe, right? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Scott?
Yes.
York?
Yes.
Sinkowitz?
Yes.
Dumont?
Yes.
Mallett?
Yes.
Nedrow?
Yes. Thank you, Andy.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, moving on. Recommendation to approve resolution establishing authorized signatories for MERS contracts and service credit purchase approvals. Mike?
Yes, this is just regular, just general paperwork to update since I'm the new administrator, to add the administrator and treasurer, Mike Kondak, and Brian as the village president, to any in the future, as you see the next two items, that we're going to be adding new programs. So we need this as the start and the other two to follow.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by York, second by Sikowitz. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries on that one. Next one is to approve the MERS Uniform 457 Supplemental Retirement Plan Program Resolution and Participation Agreement.
So what this is yes, the municipal employees retirement system that we currently are in, where we have the pensions through. This is to add a new program to the mix. There will not be any employer contributions. This is purely voluntary on the employee standpoint, to add a 457 retirement plan if they so choose. So in order to have that option, we have to have an approval to allow the plan to employees. So this is what is before you this evening.
So moved.
Motion by Dumont, second by York. Discussion?
Yes. Having 25 years or so experience with MERS, you sure there's nothing that we don't know? Or by the way, didn't we tell you this?
Oh, yeah, no, this is an extra one. This is just like if you.
Okay.
Just so they can
It's a
put more money in if they
457.
want.
It's just an investment plan.
All right.
So moved.
There's no
Zero.
contributions from the
Zero
village.
employer.
Why anybody would do that?
Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries there. And then there's a recommendation to approve MERS Healthcare Savings Program.
Yes.
Uniform Resolution and Participation Agreement. So,
This is to add another plan as well for the healthcare savings, that you can have this money through the negotiations, through the chief, that this was an option that we had to agree to, that we did to have for retirement. So basically, this will help with, upon retirement, they have this, you're building up this healthcare savings program for retirement, basically to offset some of your costs. So this is just kind of another thing that we put money into, per the contract that we, that the.
Yeah, that's village participation, right?
Just for the police chief.
Right.
That was agreed in the contract.
Okay, so everything else stays the same?
Correct.
Good, okay. I'll make that motion.
motion by Sankwitz.
Second.
Second by Dumont. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries on that. Item F, recommendation to approve contract with BSNA Software for provision of software services in the amount of not to exceed $52,000. For the administrator to be authorized to sign purchase proposal.
Would you like to
Who
take
wants,
this, Mike?
Mike, you want to handle it?
Mike can handle
Yeah, I can. If you read my one-pager there, I think the highlights would be essentially that our existing software is very, very old. The company that brands it is not interested in doing any updates. Very rarely do you see them, every now and then you'll see a fix or a patch or something like that. But they continue to have the most rudimentary, I would say, simplistic problems that they don't fix. What we learned after a meeting, Mr. Smith and I last week, is that people are leaving that company in droves. I looked at a list of over 200 Michigan municipalities, Michigan local units of government that have gone from fund balance, which is our proprietary software, to the BSNA situation, the BSNA program. Yes, it's expensive, but what we found is that once people leave the fund balance and go to BSNA, they stick. They don't find themselves disgruntled, they don't move on and look for another software provider. I think we'll find a good match with them. As I said, our neighbors from South Lyon and smaller municipalities like ourselves, Sylvan Lake, Kego, Orchard Lake, etc., Mike's old stomping grounds, Clawson, have all moved in that direction. And, it's going to be painful, I suppose, to go through the changeover. I'm probably going to bear the brunt of that, but at least they have trained people on staff who've done the transfer from fund balance, which is our proprietary software name, to the new BSNA. Nothing's going to change. We're still going to have water bills, tax bills, etc. But, I guess the more I think about it, I was very loath to recommend that to you over the years, just given the cost, $50,000, when I could make this thing kind of limp along. But, for example, if we want to do credit card payments, right now I'm doing them manually via a journal entry when people make those payments online. Well, once people start making not credit card payments, but debit card payments as well in person, the fact that our existing software, it's the same thing. I'll have to do journal entries and do stuff in the background. The back office is horrible. We have to get into the 21st century if we're going to do these kind of things. We got to bite the bullet and get this software. If there were another brand, if there were another software company that I could recommend and do research on, I would. It's just that this outfit just seems to be cornering the market, and again, with no deleterious effects on any of the units that have gone to them. Everybody's very well pleased, and it's almost like it's sort of tailored toward, even though they're in other states, it's sort of tailored toward Michigan units of government. Every state has its own vagaries with property tax laws and so forth. But I think we'll be real comfortable with it, and it'll allow us to really, really ramp up our programs and the services that we afford to our clientele, our citizens.
Well, I know you mentioned that 2 or 3 years ago that you were going to have to look at something, and you said you think you could buy a couple of years yet, but I think time's come.
Yeah, I think so, Mr. Chairman. I think that's an excellent way to put it. It's just that the demands of 21st century governance aren't going to run on a 1980s platform anymore.
Yeah.
And this would also include, it would have multiple modules to it, so there would be.
And you could add modules also.
You can add them.
Right.
Over time, as we were discussing with him, could we look to do the building permits, which is a module that a lot of municipalities offer, that is a good, very good system, very robust system for tracking for all of the different permits that you can have, which could also allow for possible future of online permitting where contractors could go in and do the permitting online and have all that. It also does payroll, you said utility billing, so it has multiple modules to it included in that proposed fee that we are.
From what I read, it included all the training too.
Mhm.
Correct, right?
Which would train the four of us, is what he stated. Right? Would be-
Yeah, our office. And
Yes.
if we're as sharp as I think we all are, maybe we can cut, maybe they won't have to be there as long.
Question, being a computer whiz, does our equipment change?
No,
Okay.
I'd like to make the recommendation to contract BS&A software for software services in the amount not to exceed $52,000.
Second.
Motion by Malik, second by Sinkowitz. Any other discussion?
I just was wondering, is there an annual fee also? Maintenance
There will
fee?
be.
Minor, I would assume, or?
Well,
Couple thousand?
$3,500
Okay.
is what they're proposing. Unfortunately, with our existing software, it almost seems like it's a money grab. They charge us well over, I think it's $5,000 a year, $5,200, something like that.
For the current one?
With the current one, right, and it's going up 5% a year. That's how they make their money. They sure don't make it selling their product to
And updating.
municipalities.
And we wouldn't have the annual service, he said, in the first year.
For the
that's
first
built
year.
into this 50,000.
Yeah.
But
And then-
even though,
I
it's-
see.
even
So it'll
after
be a
that, it's gonna
second
be
year issue.
$3,500 versus
It will.
$5,000 or
Yeah.
plus what we're gonna be paying.
Yeah.
So,
And they're based out of Bath, Michigan, is that what
Right.
it's? And they have people,
Local,
local
essentially.
people,
Yeah, they're
and
ready.
they come here and it's great
that is
training.
ruled by Lansing.
And when we're in trouble, and I do get in trouble now and then, and I call the local fund balance office, the phone call is answered in Ann Arbor. Same thing would be here. It's not some call center and, God knows where.
Mhm.
It'll be local, and we'll get answers pretty quick, and, I talk to other colleagues and so forth that, fully attest to that kind of service.
You're willing to take the dive?
Take the dive, what do you mean?
As far as switching over.
Yeah, well, I've been through this before at least a couple of times, and back in the day, this is going back 20 years plus, there was some long nights. And, I think the world has changed. I think they're working off the same kind of platform, and it's not as cumbersome as it used to be. There'll be glitches, I'm sure, but nothing we can't do.
Okay, great. Okay, we got a motion, a second. Any other discussion?
On the budget impact, this is in fact budgeted for?
It is not.
It is not.
Okay, we discussed
I
that,
wanna
I think,
come
in
up
the
with-
administrative meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd like to come up with a number of the budget amendments for next month, for example, the ones we're going to have to do with the purchase of the generators.
Mhm.
We have, I think, I hope I'm not releasing news ahead of time, but we think Mike's done a great job with Dave Scott in negotiating another 10-year extension of that agreement we have with Commerce.
Okay.
Remember, that's not budgeted either.
Mhm.
And we're looking at a revenue stream there of about 52,000, I think, this year, with it probably going up. Of course, that's all dependent on growth and taxable value. So there are a number of things to look at. And, yeah, and then we've got to take care of what we're going to do with, the repairs we did on the Oak Island Bridge. That's a local street fund expenditure, so I'll have that amendment for you as well. We've done the work. And I understand that we are postponing any work on Benstein other than maybe some cosmetic things, but the big push is going to be in the next budget year.
Yeah, next year, okay.
Okay. Roll call
Pull the
vote, please.
trigger.
Scott.
Yes.
York.
Yes.
Sinkowitz.
Yes.
Dumont.
Yes.
Malik.
Yes.
And Nedra.
Yes, thank you. Okay, we're finally at the item G, which is the second reading adoption of the ordinance, which happens to be the noxious weed ordinance that the gentleman was referring to earlier, so.
So this is the same ordinance that was in front of you last month. We made a slight modification to it to address the, when the time frame is gonna start tolling, from posting and the day of mailing. And added the business days as opposed to just days language to it.
So I guess for the gentleman in the
Make
audience.
a motion that we open to the gentleman.
Yeah, that's fine. Motion.
Second?
Motion by Malik, second by Scott. Open to the public?
It's aquatic weeds, right?
No.
No,
This is,
no.
this is,
Come on up if you
No,
have
it's not
questions.
Yeah, if you have questions.
We open it up for you.
Thank you. Again, Dave Arbogast, 785 Laguna. So,
this
the
is
only-
yard.
This is yard weeds.
Yard weeds? Okay, my only concern was I didn't read how they were defined, what's noxious.
well, they're, hold on, I'm trying to.
I say that because some of my neighbors have ivies instead of grass.
Right, so.
Some people might say that's
So
noxious.
some of it is at the discretion of code enforcement, but there's a height limitation.
Oh,
so-
no, yeah, okay.
Right.
Ivies are flat.
Okay. So if it's, you know, it's gonna be some discretion of code enforcement. But if
course,
it's
of
causing
course.
injury to property or people, then that would be a
Awesome.
noxious
I'm
weed.
very satisfied.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If I could, I'd like to follow up on that, though.
Motion to close, I guess, to public.
Anybody else?
Anybody else want
It's open.
to
Make a motion to close.
I'll second it again.
That's a motion by Malik, second by Scott, close the public. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
Okay. On the 69 or 694.02, I think the question that the gentleman was asking, still, it's a question of what is designated. You have a sentence, or there is a sentence in this, that of any other variety, species of plant growth designated by the village of Wolverine Lake as poisonous, injurious, and/or regarded as common nuisance in the opinion of the village of Wolverine Lake. This,
The state has a list of what they consider noxious
Okay.
weeds, of course, you know, they have lists for
Everything,
but,
of course.
And communities used to kind of just mirror that, but then they found themselves getting pigeonholed into just being stuck with those weeds.
Understood.
So that is just discretionary language that allows your code enforcement to kind of to designate it as a noxious weed if it's a
Okay.
problem. You know, it's not some unfettered power that they have to just,
Right.
you know, write
So it
tickets.
would be code enforcement that
Yeah,
would be
your
making.
code enforcement would do that.
Yes, the
So
the
even if
change-
it's under 7 inches as a noxious weed, it's not gonna matter. It would still be a noxious
If it's
weed.
something that, like, I don't even know because I don't know plants, but,
Okay.
you know, let's say it's something poisonous.
Mhm.
And it's not 7 inches, but there's like an enormous amount of this poisonous weed upon
Okay.
the property, then the code enforcement officer could say, that's gotta go. It's causing health, safety, welfare kind of issue.
Yeah, well, I'm just anticipating a neighbor, somebody saying, who makes that determination?
The process itself
And-
isn't gonna change at all from what you have going on right now,
Okay.
other
Okay.
than you've added 7 inches, you know,
Understand.
and you've
And
added
all
some, like,
of the
time frame.
conversation was
And the
had, I
notification.
guess,
Right.
Before, there wasn't any notification
Right.
either, so
Right.
we're trying to
Understood.
make it work.
Yeah,
Understood.
but everything else kind of is just gonna continue along as it has been.
And we are currently working on, Tabitha's working on a door hanger,
Mhm.
so we can have that and
I
check off.
saw that, yeah, that's a great idea.
I gave her some examples, she's running with it, it's great. We're gonna, on Friday, we're gonna talk to code enforcement officer Bill about it, see, you know, what maybe major chapters or ordinances are, he's constantly out there, so he can check and we can have the date.
Mhm.
And when he comes back, he can talk to Tabitha or Paige, and they can send out the notification to match this 5 business days
Okay.
from the date of mailing and posting of the property. So the posting will be the door hanger. We'll take a picture of it now that we have the camera, and we'll mail out the dates as well, so it coincides with each other.
All right.
Mike, while we're talking about the code enforcement officer, I saw in your letter that he went out and checked the stuff. Are we still trying to find out what is legal and what isn't?
Yes, they're working on Tabitha showed me the long list and pictures, and she's gonna have a wonderful report in the next, I'm giving her some time, because I saw the amount of
there's a lot
pictures.
there.
So we'll have that forthcoming, that some of that might be addressed in this and other items, so.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt ordinance 120A3 with the amendments to part 6 as presented.
Support. Motion by York, second by Sinkwitz. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
Weeds be gone.
Okay, then next item is introduction of, the first reading of the ordinance, 128-8-2. Ordinance, amended part 2 of the administrative code. This is regarding the Parks and Rec Board. I want to say that again, Parks and Recreation. So
Slowly.
essentially, it was just to rename the Park Board to the Parks and Recreation Board.
Move to amend.
Second.
Motion by Dumont, second by Malik. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. All right. And that'll be introduced and we'll adopt probably next month. So we are at 8:25 and we're at the second call of the public. So we're 35 minutes ahead. If you could stand up, state your name and address, and try to limit it to 5 minutes or less.
I'm Jerry Schloff. I'm from 1132 Lakeview. I'd like to give this to the lawyer, if I may. I sent this to all you councilmen.
Okay.
An email.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And even sent it to the code enforcement officer. I didn't know you were here, and I didn't know. I live at 1132 Lakeview, and this is about we've been parking our boats next to the garage for 20 years, and now we find out that, no, we can't do that anymore. And apparently it's a law, and I'll look at the lawyer. Apparently, oh.
I'm Robin Spielman,
I told you
1140
you could come up
Lakeview,
here
right next door
first.
to him. So it's ordinance 128005.
Did you all get a chance
Yeah.
to read
Yep.
the email?
Mhm. Yep.
Okay, so you've had a chance to decide what you want to do or what you can do. I don't
Well,
know
we
what
haven't
you can
discussed
do.
it, so.
So the ordinance clearly states street side, you can have one boat.
And one recreational vehicle, I believe, that's correct, right?
I'm just
Whatever it is,
in,
yeah.
about the temporary accessory boat storage.
Okay.
So it says that you can have one boat street side in, I think it's unrestricted area, and then lakeside. When I went upstairs, they told me only one boat, but then I got a piece of paper, it says unlimited number of boats. I got this from Bill. Can be stored in a required rear yard or required lakefront yard. So, what our concern is side yard. If we could have the ordinance adjusted to include side yard. So, some yards don't have enough room in the front or in the back. Most lake owners, or lakefront owners, even some backlot owners, have a pontoon and a speedboat. So, and it describes as a vessel. And a vessel could be a pontoon, a speedboat, a personal watercraft, a rowboat with a motor, anything. Now, I don't know if a vessel has to have a motor, because then if you're defining a vessel as anything that you can traverse across the water, you would be looking at kayaks, paddle boards, the little paddle boats, the windsurfer guy that's out there, sailboats, they all traverse across the water. So if you include all of those, I would say everybody is not in compliance with the ordinance. I have 2 kayaks, I have a paddle board, I have a speedboat, and I have a pontoon. So,
Well, so this is all just new information to me
Right.
right now. I can't, I mean, have you
Right.
been issued citations?
I was issued a citation
Okay,
last
see,
year.
so there's a lot of different, like, balls in there with this that I need to look into, and I can't do it in real time sitting here.
Right, I understand that. So our request is, can we bring it in front of can we get it so it's reviewed? We don't expect you to make a decision tonight.
Right, so,
But-
I mean, that's up to council. I can look at the different legal issues here and figure out what exactly is going on. I just have your letter, and I don't even know if this is updated, but I could look at those issues and make a determination if there's a problem potentially with the ordinance, or if it's just a change in enforcement. I don't know. I'm making all that up right
So-
now, but.
Another concern is, my family's lived in the village since 1950. We've always stored 2 boats on the side of the house. We've never been ticketed until last year. So the ordinance has been on the books since '95. It has never been enforced until 2018. I appreciate that our ordinance officer is doing his job. He is doing what we are paying him to do. But to all of a sudden enforce an ordinance that has not been enforced. I think a warning, which last year they did turn my ticket into a warning, because he said that it would go in front of the village to be modified, and nothing happened. I talked to him last Wednesday. He said, you cannot park your boat there, you will get a ticket. So,
So I have to look at all the specifics of everything. I can tell you, in the state of Michigan, communities that have not enforced ordinances in the past, that does not prohibit them from all of a sudden enforcing
right,
ordinances.
I understand that.
So, just because that may not have occurred in the past doesn't mean they can't all of a sudden start, it's an ordinance, it's a law that they
Right.
have in place.
So we're here to ask if the council can look at the ordinance and make some changes.
We gotta pull a couple boats out in the next couple of weeks. I have used my propeller as a plow one time, and I've had to look like Humphrey Bogart one time because I waited too long.
I mean, this is something
gotta
that I
pull our
can look
boats
at
out.
relatively quickly, I just can't do it this evening, sitting here right now.
Right.
Yeah. Is there any way you folks can just say, don't enforce the law this year? That's what happened last year.
Can't do that.
It hadn't been enforced since '95.
Yeah, that's another thing, since it's good, if you choose to review it, can the ordinance be, given a pass this year or something?
If you've been issued a citation, that would be, some kind of an arrangement potentially that you'd need to make with the code enforcement officer and the prosecutor and a judge. But that's not something that council can say, we're just not gonna enforce our ordinances and we're gonna nullify what our code enforcement officer is doing. They can't, they don't have the power to do that. So I can look at the legal issues and I can make a determination as to, if there's a problem with the ordinance, what has changed, I don't know. I mean, I don't have any of
Okay.
that information in front of me.
And just for information purposes, I was able to work from home today, so I drove around the village. And there are probably 50 homes, including backlots, that have multiple boats on the side of the house, not just lake lots. 50 homes that are in violation of the ordinance today,
Do some of
just
that
to
happen?
take that into consideration.
So we're left with parking it between the houses where nobody cared for all these years, because there's nothing you can do about it. Amazing.
Well, that's actually a zoning ordinance.
I mean, if there is
Planning
a
and zoning would
possible
look at it.
change that can be made to the zoning ordinance, first it has to go to planning commission for a public hearing, and then it would come here on recommendation from the planning commission. So eventually it would come here and council can make a decision about it, but it's a process that needs to be followed. But I'm not even saying I think that there's a change that needs to be made, I don't know. I need
Okay,
to look.
so I guess then my next question would be, what is a process I have to follow? So I have to go to the next meeting for,
I think that I should look at some of the legal issues and figure out what's going on here.
And talk to our code enforcement officer.
And then I will talk to the village administrator
Mhm.
and then, determine if that's something that needs to be approached with the planning consultant and the planning commission or code enforcement, or who needs to look at this issue, what the issue is. I wish I had an answer for you this evening, but I don't.
okay.
Can you have an answer in a week?
I
Is there-
can.
Huh?
I can, yes.
So we should leave our
But,
votes.
but that's, council's choice.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
Well, you
it's
can
not
have
my-
a, no, I shouldn't say an answer, but you can have a what the legal impacts are, right?
sure.
Right. Discuss, and then
Right.
Administrator
It's not gonna
Smith,
change the
Right.
zoning
we
ordinance.
could
It's not
ask
gonna change the
that
situation.
you inform them of what the status is and then what the next step will be.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
So let's say the zoning ordinance needs to be amended, that's months
Mhm.
Right.
before that happens. And
So-
so that doesn't necessarily affect your ticket either.
Well,
I
this
don't know
was
where you
last
are in
year,
that. but-
And Bill told me, never mind, forget about it. We're not gonna enforce the ticket because we need to modify the ordinance. So, I'm like, okay, cool, so I left my boats there.
Yeah, and I'll certainly talk to Bill about all of this.
Okay.
so.
So then, this year, being proactive, I came up last Wednesday when I worked from home to see what the ordinance change was. To my surprise, there was none. So then I asked the woman upstairs, what happens if I do park my boat? She goes, if it's not written down, you can't do it. So it's not written down that you can park on the side of your house, store your boat on the side of your house.
I don't know what that means. That's why I need to ask some questions and look into some things.
Okay. So if I'm taking out my boat next Wednesday, my pontoon, if I park it on the side of the house.
Well, let me ask a question on that. I mean, you're talking about parking it right next to your garage, is that correct?
No, so.
Or is it on a side yard?
It's a side yard.
Okay, because
His is
I
next to the
believe there was
garage.
I've been on planning commission, I thought there was ability to be able to park in a side yard. Go ahead, John.
I believe there is, if it's equal to the front of the house or behind. It can't be in
Right.
front of the front corner of the house.
It's behind.
I believe that was the way
It was
it was
written.
supposed to be written, because I remember dealing with this 15 years ago or so, is when it can't be out, in front. You can't line up your boats out in front of your property. It needs to be, if it's a side yard, if it's a dedicated side yard, it needs to be behind the front corner of your home.
Really?
So my garage sticks out farther than,
The
like,
boat.
my
Yeah.
extra bedroom. It's still behind the extra bedroom.
Okay.
So,
We put two pontoon boats there, have been for 20 years, and they do not extend beyond the garage.
His pontoons.
They are in
Doesn't
between
matter.
between the houses.
stuff
They're looking for an answer right now.
Well, they're not gonna.
If I could,
Well,
if I
why,
could,
when you can't put a
I will
boat
try
on
to
the
get with
lake?
Bill, and we could probably go take a look and see what they're talking about, and I can go over the ordinance with Bill.
Right.
And try to see what, if something does need to change, what needs to change. If you're in compliance currently, I will find out, because I know with a part-time ordinance officer, it's difficult for him to try to negotiate all of these lakefront, side front,
Right.
side yard, front yard. So it's hard for him to sometimes to decipher all of the information that's there. And I would be more than happy to go over that with him and see what we can come up with. We can then confer with our attorney and decide, and our manager and decide what's the best course of action from there. Is that fair enough?
perfect, Chief, thank you.
Yeah,
You're welcome.
yeah.
Chief, a quick question. Is there any restriction on where you put them between homes as far as the fire department's concerned?
Again, I will have to look at that. I don't
Okay.
believe there is. There's supposed to be a 5-foot setback, I believe.
I believe that's correct, yeah.
Yeah.
From my recollection, that, and again, I haven't read this ordinance in 15 years. I don't know exactly what it, but I believe that there is
Hasn't changed.
supposed to be a 5-foot setback. Again, I haven't read it so long, I don't know, but that was off the top of my head. It seems like I remember something about 5 foot. I used to have to do the ordinance enforcement here too,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that was back in the 90s, so. Oh, wow.
So that's, I think what all we're asking is that we start the process, whatever that process is, to get this ordinance reviewed to include it, so we don't have, you
Let's see
know.
what we got before we.
Yeah.
I'll-
You can use my, you can use me as an example.
I will do that.
We might have to move it.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, one and all.
so,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Well,
Next.
Do we go now, or do we?
Oh, no, you gotta stay to the end. We're here till 11.
But your wife has to stay, she's gotta clap for me next.
I go to clap. Tell them you're not my wife, you're just somebody I picked, never mind.
Oh,
We don't want to offend anybody by leaving, that's all. You know?
you're
good, it's all right.
Thank you.
Wait, I have instructions to go and sit down. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Hi again, Dave Arbogas, again, 785 Laguna. I was actually going to talk about the software, because I'm a certified cybersecurity expert. Of course, let me join with them. In the spring, we got a letter warning us that we have 10 days to get the boats out of there. No mention about putting it next to the garage. It's physically impossible for us to put the boats on the lakeside because, you know, the distance between the fence and the house is less than the width of the boat. So we never got into citation. We said we were going to have a citation in 10 days. That was in the spring. Nothing happened. Anecdotally, another resident that I know had the same thing happen. Got the warning letter, you got 10 days, that you're going to get a citation, and then nothing. I hope that's part of the conversation. Now, onto the software. So, as a cybersecurity expert, certified, the new software, I haven't heard the mention of cybersecurity. So I'm hoping that that's part of the conversation, part of your requirements for the vendor. And the reason I say that is the antiquated software we have, probably any cyber vulnerabilities that there might have been 20 years ago aren't there today. The operating systems would be different today than they were then. So, but I would highly recommend that we look at that.
One thing that will make you feel, or make you sleep better at night, as it does me, is that we do back up nightly. We're backing up to the cloud. So if we're ever hacked, if we're ever served with ransomware, if we're ever served with, any kind of, I forgot what some of those things are called, and it is
You're on
hitting
the right path.
governments.
Yeah.
I feel
Unless
pretty
you're-
good that we'll be okay.
Unless you're backing up to a FedRAMP high.
We are.
Well,
FedRAMP high,
Yes, it's through.
not medium.
It's through
Oh.
the Oakland County, it's.
Okay, that's great.
It's a
That is great.
governmental, it's a governmental.
Right,
thing,
right. So the vulnerability would be to the live system in our PII, and once you do credit cards, that sort of thing. Oh, I'm sorry, personal information, name and address, that sort of thing. So that's great, we're doing the backup to a FedRAMP high, that's the highest level there is.
I know exactly.
CIA stuff is in there, literally. But, so that's great, I'm glad to hear that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
I do want to make one correction. I did get a warning, not a citation, when he said
Oh.
that. The 10 days to move, that's what I got. That's what he got also.
Okay,
That's better.
yep.
Mark Giramini, 2459 Oakview Drive. Last month, I asked council about having MLK Day as a recognized holiday in the village. It was not put in the agenda, this one, and I'm just wondering what discussion or progress or issues have come up in regards to that.
We will be discussing that at the administrative committee meeting, and then that would have to, of course, go on to during the negotiations for when we open the contracts.
Okay.
So
and-
it is in the,
You're talking about a paid holiday?
Yes, like they have at the federal, state level, and in Commerce Township.
we'll be discussing just the overall, that is the start, this is the start to negotiations for next year.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. Anybody else for second call? Seeing none, we'll close the second call to the public. And move on to discussion on participating in Oakland County No-Haz program for 2020.
So I received a letter from Oakland County to see if we would be interested in participating. They're trying to get all the information for communities for their No-Haz program in 2020. So it's a consortium of communities. I believe Commerce Township actually just had theirs collection date, last Saturday. But they actually had a little disclaimer, not open to Wolverine Lake residents. So, with that being said, I spoke to Treasurer Kondak and I that, hey, maybe we would want to open it up to our residents here. They do have the program here, but it is, so we have member communities. In the letter it states, we can either pay the full price per car ahead of time, or the car, whoever is participating, could have a fee charged to that, to them, to participate in doing that. They would need to know for planning for next year, if we're interested in having this discussion the next couple of weeks. That's why I wanted to have it on this meeting, to see if there was interest to our residents to have that date next year sometime. So there may be a cost, it depends on, I guess, what type of, how we want to handle that. Either have that in our budget for that, to prepay for it, or to have the residents as they drive up.
Just have the ability to pay on the spot.
Correct.
You mean have a receptacle here in the?
They would
They
still come
actually-
here, they come here.
They set up a date.
Yeah, they set up a date, so either we would pay ahead of time, so member communities can pay the full
Okay.
price per car for each resident. We can, as the village, can pay for or the residents as they drive up, as they have a car, pay $10 and they get rid of their hazardous waste. So it's just one.
I guess just, it would be,
So
the
it's
question
just
would be how many people would be using it.
Correct, so.
So
we
it
don't
doesn't
know.
matter how much you're bringing, it's just 10 to 15 bucks per car. Or
Car, truck, SUV, whatever.
Well, that's, yeah.
So this is kind of starting the discussion, if it's of interest.
I think it's a
John's
good
shaking his
idea.
head, yes.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
I think it's a great program. I get
Yeah.
asked several times a year where they can dispose of this kind of stuff. I obviously, the oils and the old gas and things of that nature.
Batteries,
A
all that
lot-
stuff.
Yeah, all that stuff. So,
A lot of them, they're taking up Thanks. A lot of them, they're taking it to, like some of the local automotive parts stores, they'll take back gas and oil.
Right.
And sometimes the batteries and things of that nature. However, I'm asked several times a year about this. I think if we did it maybe every 3 years, it would be fine, but I definitely think there's a need here in the village.
Okay. I wish there was somewhere we could poll.
Yeah, can we move forward with it, and then at worst, it's on each individual
Mhm.
village
Yeah.
resident to
Yeah.
pay the fee per vehicle or whatever they're charging? At a minimum, have it as an option, that's what we're talking about, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Basically, starting the discussion.
Starting the
see if
discussion.
there's
They need to know,
interest.
so they have to plan next year, because they go
Right.
to each of these communities and they try and
All
pull
right.
together communities.
Is,
So usually in the spring they do this? I mean,
They do it, I think they plan the whole year.
let's,
Depends on where it is.
Yeah.
And depends how many times you want,
Because
probably.
it
I
used to
would
be
guess,
like
too.
August, I think,
All right.
in
Mike.
Highland, when I lived in Highland.
the question is, let's say we set this up and it's the 10th of July and nobody shows to bring anything. Do we get charged something for them coming out and doing a setup?
I'm not seeing that, but I'd have to
You know,
investigate it.
it-
Yeah, that would be a great discussion point with that. I didn't see any mention of that. I'd like to check into that.
You know, since they do have to come out with people and set up and whatever they do, so.
Well, I mean,
carry forward.
did we already
Let's
send
find
out the newsletter?
The one has
Fall
been posted,
newsletter?
yes, but this would be for winters. I mean, we wouldn't know the date or anything.
I'm just saying that would be something that we could put in the newsletter, or put on the website or something like that to try to get some feedback back from our residents to try to, see how many people would be interested. Yeah, some sort of a poll. Yeah. All right, an online poll even.
Sure. Can move forward at least with the discussion is what I'm hearing.
I think it's prudent to investigate it. Try to look forward on it, yeah. Enough said on that? Okay. Recommendation to authorize Administrator Michael Smith to cast the official vote for the Director of the Michigan Municipal League Liability and Property Pool.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Duman, second by Singlets. Hopefully no discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. You're it.
All right.
Okay, discussion on scheduling 2019 appreciation dinner.
This is an annual thing. I believe we were looking, and Thanksgiving is very late this year.
28th or something like that.
So I think this would be in December, I'm guessing, and I don't know if, I think Kaya would be the location again.
We've done it like, generally on Tuesday or Thursday, wasn't it?
I'm new
What
to
do-
this,
what do
so
you-
I guess it's,
Does anybody like to try someplace else besides Kaya?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's in the neighborhood, but it's like being in somebody's basement, and when.
We are in the
When we
basement.
brought this,
Yeah, it
when
is
we
a
brought
basement.
this back, in fact, I think I was the one who instigated, doing the appreciation dinner. We went to Uptown, and that was really a nice setup there.
Yeah, they did a nice job there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For a
just
change,
Change
maybe?
of pace, I think, would be great.
Pardon?
Mix
Change
it
of
up,
pace
mix it
would
up
be
a little bit.
great. Someplace different and.
I make a motion that we, obviously, the date's not been set yet, but it would be in December, first part of December, I guess.
First, second week, somewhere in there.
Well, I was just looking at the calendar. We do it on a weeknight, don't we?
Generally, yep.
Your Thursday, the 12th, if that works for a lot of people, I don't know. I just.
Well, we might have to see what they have available.
Also,
Yeah.
Michael, are you the one that's gonna be looking?
yeah.
Okay, there's also, the Wixom Station you might check with. I don't know if they would accommodate that type of thing or not. Just to get an idea on top of,
They don't,
Uptown.
they'd have to
Yeah, they had to
leave the whole
coordinate
place
it,
for
I
us.
mean,
There's not enough room for it.
to the
No,
rate of
Benstein
it,
Grill, that would be just like going to the library. We'd be in a corner of a big building. But anyway,
Or take over
I'm-
the
I'm-
whole
I'm
Benstein.
making my
Grill.
motion for the Uptown Grill.
Okay, I'll second that. But in discussion, are we going to check beyond the Uptown just to make sure?
For pricing and timing.
That's what I was
guess
gonna
that makes
suggest.
sense.
I was gonna suggest we
Absolutely.
have the administrator check a couple places.
Yeah.
And
You know,
availability, and, I mean, we might be a little limited.
Well, another one,
Fifth and the 12th.
Yeah, you can also, if we could get
well,
Richardson Center and just have
yeah,
a
but then
caterer.
you gotta set up everybody who's gonna cater it and do whatever. But also the Benstein Grill, they might, on a weeknight, be privy to closing it to the public and having
They've
it for,
done that.
I don't know.
They're local. Well,
You
whatever.
can ask Glenn tomorrow.
I'm sure our administrator will do some
No,
searching
there's a
around.
cigar and bourbon night.
Oh, that's tomorrow, it's cigar, yeah, that's right,
That was tonight.
No, it's tomorrow.
This is
Did it go a week
tomorrow
before?
night. 10th.
Fifth or something.
Well, I wouldn't.
Or, yeah, Tuesday.
Great
Actual
place.
Yeah.
So I'll look at December 5th or the 12th to see who's and
Or it
things
could be a
like that.
Tuesday even, depending on what other meetings are. I can't remember if it was Tuesday or Thursday last year. Was it Thursday?
So, on Ed's motion is Uptown Plus.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Uptown
that's the
or any
friendly.
other.
Right. And I still second, so.
Do we
I don't
need a
know,
motion?
I didn't want to make the other motion.
Okay,
No.
so we got a motion, second by Malik, to look into the appreciation dinner first couple of weeks in December.
I will report back.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Update on proposed Clara Miller Park Center. We got a drawing in front of us.
Yes, there's a drawing, the second iteration of this. This is, we met with CORE, and I believe even we have some more, I guess, conceptual changes that maybe we weren't hitting the nail on the head here with what we're looking for, and what I'm looking for too is better steering from the council to get a better consensus, because I feel like we're at an impasse as to size, what we're really looking for. And I know that some of the council had looked for information, which Chairperson Germini stated in here, as well as during the presentation here, to the advantages of having a park center, kind of some of the events and other things. And I had them measure the actual footprint of what they utilize over there in the storage space and in the DPW bay and the tents and the other, so to kind of give you a perspective as to how much
Mhm.
square footage they probably actually need. So I think that we were looking at the footprint of 20 feet by 20, so like a 400-foot storage space would be, I think would be wonderful. So I guess I want to get a better consensus of before I move forward with talking to CORE again, because they're at a limited amount left, kind of if we go into the third change. So it's kind of, I want to step back and make sure that the council is all together, that we have a consensus of what we actually want to do with the park center.
I have a question. This south elevation, is that like a roll-up door?
Garage door?
Yes. One will be, the one side that they're proposing, yes, that will be. So basically, in essence, the gator could go in, or a utility vehicle at some point, if we ever wanted to store something there, could actually utilize that, and you can have the whole space with the roll top. The other section with the north elevation, that would be the actual concession, so the roll down.
Rolling door,
Yeah.
counter type.
So that's the difference between those two. We thought that would be a good utilization of that type of entry.
Now, we moved,
So you're looking here at a 40 by 20?
Correct. For this iteration. The other one, the original one, I think we were at like 1,400 square feet. And this is down to 800, 900 square feet.
40 by
Per
20,
some of the discussions that we had at the
40
last
by
meeting.
25 roughly.
Yeah.
I have another question. Your east elevation, you showed 2 service doors there. Does that mean the west is just one big, long block wall or whatever?
That is,
looks like,
That's-
according to this, yes, and that is what Mark and I, when we met, that was we didn't care for that. And so when we saw that, we were just like, we actually.
Flip-flop it?
Yeah, flip-flop it, and we kind of realized that, we see this, but I think it should change. So, how do we want to segment or orient the actual building? Do we want to have it matched? Do we want to create for a phase 2 option to have maybe I forgot what the material is, like a Mylar, I don't know what the name of it is, for the pedestals to create like a concrete slab so you have an overhang between the two facilities, the restrooms and the new proposed park center.
Do we know how much the price difference would be between doing it in 2 phases and doing it in 1 phase?
We asked those questions to the architect, and she said, as we all know, it's at the liberty of whatever the bids come back, and whatever the specs, whatever the material is. Clearly, when we went with the block, we know that is a cheaper and lasts longer material than as we talked about with the brick facade and all the other things. But it's whoever bids on these things, that can change. We don't have an amount.
I'm looking at, like, you mentioned about flip-flopping east to west. That still is just a very unappealing wall with 2 doors, which you're coming in off of Benstein. Okay, you've got the coiling concession door. I mean, something like that on that big section of block wall, just to give it some appearance or something.
You'd like it to look nicer.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's just, we're
Plus you have the
spending how
slab there,
much on
too,
each of
which
these
makes more
drawings, and.
We kind of reoriented things, but before, because Mark and I met with Kelly, and we looked at that, and we kind of looked at the feasibility of actually, how would we utilize it when we have the Tuesdays in the park? Some of these other events that could be very useful there to utilize that space, the corn roasts and things like that, and how you want to kind of create that center area, the meeting area, so where you'd have the concession, but then the water fountains and then the access to the ADA compliant restroom, and then to basically along the, I guess it'd be the south elevation, that, you just kind of have that as there, but then kind of have it so both the buildings face each other and they have the appealing nature, so that open space is all attached. When you look at parks, you see the restrooms, see a concession spot for it, and another access. There'd still be a breezeway there. So I guess that's the thing, is we want to get a consensus as to what are we looking at.
How did we get to cinder block, by the way? I mean, I'm thinking if there, and I think there is great viability in the statement of doing something over term, 10 years, 15 years, whatever it might be, given the drive of people like Mark and Kelly, to modify a block building is a lot more expensive than trying to do something even with brick or with siding, where you can cut. And for example, in reference to what you're saying, Bob, if there was some time in the future to put French doors or something in what is being defined as the storage room, so that if there's an awning between the current restroom facilities and this proposed building, people could come inside. I mean, to go plain is important, to save cost is important, but if you're going to look for a facility that you might have to have changes done to, these are very tough buildings to do changes with. That is cinder block buildings. I mean, once they're there, they tend to be there. And I'm just wondering, if you're going to go out and do something like this, and I agree that we should have this discussion, but I think it's not impossible to go out to an architect or to go out to a builder and ask for the cost of doing it in this facade and the cost of doing it in cinder block.
Well, if you take a cinder block building, they add on to them all the time. And there's advantages and disadvantages, especially, in case of a fire. But I've got comments about the idea of all this, but this core company that did this should be ashamed of themselves. The first one they did, they had the storage out in front where everybody is, and the food and all that in the back. So if you remember, the bathroom's here, and then you go around the back to get to the food. Now this one here, this makes no common sense. We've got toilets over here. This toilet should be in where it says the door next to the opening there. So that when we do the plumbing, we're gonna eventually have to, you're gonna pick up the plumbing from here and the water supply from the bathroom. Now you gotta go all the way underneath or around. That's silly. And then they've got the storage in the back, which makes sense, but you look at the building, I think the bathrooms look better than the building from the view. There should be a window there, and as I had a drawing where it would be a sliding window, a slide-up window, and then the counter space could go in there, so if you were gonna serve from that building, you can serve right from there. Here we got these barn doors. They shouldn't be paid. This is terrible. It's done on a CAD cam, it probably took them 5 minutes. But when you look at it, just think, you got the big door over here, and you got the little door over here, and then you got 2 doors right next to each other, one for the bathroom and one from there. If anything, there should be something on the other side of the building. But this is a very, very poor design.
So as far as guidance, the first one over this?
Well, no, I think the size is fine, 20 by 40.
Just its layout.
For a start, but the
Layout, yeah.
layout is, you wouldn't do a house like this. I know somebody who could do a much better job on laying this out.
Michael, you were asking for guidance. It sounds like we want something that looks a little bit nicer and is laid out better.
Well, as far as the outside goes with the niceness and everything, there's a lot of things you can do. You can put paneling up, you can put wood up, if you don't use cinder block, you can put block on cinder block. There's 1,000 things. I'm just looking right now at the inside of the building. It's butt backwards, if you understand what I mean.
And that's my guidance, is Mark and I, we noticed that too, as well, and we already
And we're
did our
paying these
draft.
guys
We already did our drafting,
$3,500.
And that's what I wanted guidance, I didn't wanna go back to them and say, so that's where the guidance is. What are we looking for? Are you happy with that footprint of the 40 by, as we're stating,
40
is
by
that the size
25.
kinda we're trying to stick around? Do you want them to be separate buildings? Do you want them to be oriented
I think
as such?
separate buildings are okay, but I would like to see,
Essentially
a
flip-flop,
window
flip-flop the layout.
or something. I don't know.
Do you think it would be prudent to have a joint meeting with the park board so we can, let's do that?
I think that'd be a great idea.
Yeah.
Together
Have
before I
open
move
conversation
forward with
the
them?
people that use
Yeah.
and design the building.
Correct.
I think that'd be a great idea.
Because I don't wanna just keep on running our
Running it
wheels
back and forth,
back
yep.
and forth. It'd just be,
So
Should
Mike,
we
do
have a-
I understand that
a special
we
meeting?
have a certain number of hours left in that contract that we already have with CORE?
Correct.
For hours for them to engineer this?
Correct.
And we're not trying to waste those hours, that's why
Right.
we're gonna have this combined meeting.
correct.
How many hours have we used already?
I don't know I just know that she said she had to meet with I think she said do you remember? We have 3 hours left.
And we
Total
paid
amount.
for how many?
I-
I can't hear you.
Her hourly rate is $85 an hour,
And what was the total approved contract?
3,400,
And we only have 3 hours left?
yes. Because she said two.
How would you like to have that?
So,
Yeah. You want to take a pay cut?
yeah,
That's outrageous.
so $85 into $3,500.
So that's where.
Well, I think,
She
I think
has
with
40 plus
with
hours
knowing that, I
into the
think
two,
we
Yeah.
can have a joint meeting, we could
Do you believe
hash
that?
it out, and then go back
I
to
don't
them.
know. No, I
If it's just a matter of redrawing what's there, it won't take them but a couple minutes, probably.
But they're saying they already have roughly 37 hours into these two drawings?
Do we have a detailed building?
Not yet, not till.
How do we ask for a detailed building?
It's a touch over 41.
How about getting a new
it's a touch
job?
over 41 hours
Yeah,
is at $3,500 divided by 85.
yeah. Now, that could include her meeting times.
Yeah, sure it does.
That's what we're
Travel
dealing
time,
with.
things like that,
She's-
They
must
might
be
charge
charging
for
travel
telephone time.
and other things then.
Well, do we want a detailed bill of materials already then? mean, that's gonna take more than 3 hours.
What's that?
Oh, jeez.
Oh, she ought to be able to generate
I'll
a
get
bill
She
with
better
no
be able
additional
to.
cost.
So are you saying that we'll get together with the Parks and Rec and
Yeah.
do something?
I would believe that
Yeah.
I think at this impasse, that's the best solution.
Work session.
Yeah.
Sounds
Or
Yeah,
just
let's
it
do
at
a
the
work session.
Can,
Perfect.
when does this last 3 hours run out with them?
When we,
I
When
told
they
them,
actually
I
do the
emailed
work.
them and said we were talking about it tonight, and after that, on Friday, I would let her know our plan, and so the plan would be, we're gonna discuss it at the
Well,
work
is
session.
My- it 3.5 point hours is- to
read the email?
Well, no, my point is, do we have till
Yeah,
the
we want a
31st
refund
or
on
the
the second
30th of
one.
November?
Nope, there's no timetable, it's on us.
Okay, so how about
That is just
we
an ugly building.
meet without them?
Yeah,
In other
that's what-
words,
that's what we're
you're-
talking
yeah,
about.
okay.
We're talking about
Well, I
Parks-
thought you were
meeting
gonna
with Parks
bring
and-
them in
No,
also.
No, just meeting with
Okay.
Parks and Rec to
Park and
plan
Rec.
down a plan.
That's-
So we could do it at our proposed work session, would
Yeah.
that work?
Mhm.
That's
Yeah,
what day is it?
absolutely. What date are we gonna
October
be meeting?
20.
The 23rd.
It's on the agenda.
October 23rd.
Yeah. Would that work? There's enough.
Sure.
So I guess that would be our, is that on the next agenda?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Mm-hmm. On the 23rd. Okay.
How big is this room?
This room?
Bigger
I
than.
have to walk it off, I don't know.
These are
This is
2-foot
bigger than
tiles.
900 square feet.
This is
Yeah.
30 by, probably 30 by 40,
Yeah.
so it's,
1,200 square feet.
yeah, roughly. I didn't go lengthwise, but it just counted 30 feet.
That'll be
wide.
just a 7 o'clock meeting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's, well, I think that's part of what, we're doing a sidebar conversation about other utilizations of that building.
Sure.
And, you know, if you're gonna make that an open storage area, again, in the future, we're gonna have to plan some way to make this more of a meeting facility. Both the access and et cetera, community center, yeah.
Well, it started
looks
out
like-
that we were
join our
looking for
meeting?
a storage place, and now it's turning
What's that?
Would you like to
into
join our meeting?
a restaurant.
Yeah.
Some of you would probably like me to join the meeting, some of you probably wouldn't. like me to join.
You're welcome to join. We'd like your input.
Well, there's certainly safety in all of that.
Yeah.
Okay, so are we pretty well set with what we're looking, I mean, Parks and Rec? The two of you definitely be able to make a work session? And anybody else from Parks and Rec would be great.
We'll send out the invite.
Put walls on the cabana that's there and call it even.
So anything else we need to discuss as far as a park update? Okay. So topics for administrative committee meeting?
This is a new, as we discussed at the administrative committee, that we were moving forward with the grand idea to, as Ed brought up, was to have the administrative committee meeting directly following, we're already here. So if there's any other topics you want, we do have some topics that we're gonna discuss tonight. I don't know if there's anything else you want us to have.
Generally, those come up council, we haven't really hit anything tonight, so.
Okay, so there's that. Yeah.
Yep, hopefully not. Set topics for October 23rd work session,
did
I
that
believe we've already
Yeah,
done
and
that,
if
so.
if anybody wants to put a little drawing together with some changes, leaving the building about approximately the same size.
Yeah.
Get out your crayons, kids.
Electronic,
I have a
to
roll
scale.
of onion skin, I'll bring it to the meeting.
There you go.
You know, just
Oh, what?
roll of onion skin, you know, the real see-through tracing paper.
There
like,
you
know,
go.
can just
I don't
lay it
believe
on.
we have any pending business.
Nope.
Update from Police Chief Ellsworth.
He's leaving.
Doesn't want the
Oh,
portable.
no.
I'm gonna try something different this time.
Uh-oh.
I do have a couple things. I wanted to thank you first for hiring Rico Banchina. I think that's gonna be, that was just a no-brainer. And he came to me, which is a great thing. And we've already talked, and we are gonna set up a snowmobile safety class, hopefully for January 11th of 2020. So we will have that here. It doesn't cost us but his hourly wage.
Wow.
So that would be good. You can use this room for that. We're gonna limit it to first 30 people. If necessary, we can add another class as well. But our Marine Patrol wrapped up for the patrol for the year. It was a significant increase, about a 23% increase compared to last year, and last year was pretty good. 47 citations were issued. I think we had 3 arrests out there, mostly for alcohol-related offenses on the water. And obviously, you can tell, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And I don't know if you know that Deputy Chief Wachowski's daughter Danny is currently in treatment for breast cancer. And in her honor, Deputy Chief Wachowski paid for pink badges for every officer of the department. So we thank him for that. We'll wear them with pride and hope that this small gesture on our behalf will give those suffering from cancer the courage to continue the fight against that horrific disease. So thank you, Deputy Chief Wachowski. He is truly my partner, and he's a great for our department. I wanted to let you know I was awarded the grant to attend the International Association of Chiefs Police Conference in Chicago by the Michigan Police Chief Association, and I'll be leaving October 25th and returning October 30th. It's a great opportunity to be exposed to some of the best training internationally and the next generation equipment, and I'm excited to go there. It's been, like I said, it's paid for. It's a reimbursable grant. We've already filled out all the paperwork and submitted it, and it's been approved, so I'll be going there for that. Sergeant Morosco graduates Staff and Command College Friday night, so we have a busy week coming up with our packing party on Saturday too, so I will not be there to help set up Friday night. I'll be at his graduation, which, by the way, he did his thesis on use of social media, so I have a feeling some big pitch is coming soon. But he gave his presentation on Tuesday morning, yesterday morning, I guess it was Monday morning, and he got 200 out of 200 points for his presentation. So evidently, he's got it down pretty good, so I'm looking forward to that. And thank you again. Like I said, Rico is going to be a great addition. I think it's going to be, we can bring a lot of our training back in-house too, along with the boater safety classes. But myself and Mr. Stone had talked about a boater safety class, or a snowmobile safety class last year, and we had a good discussion about that. The closest one around here was in Bay City.
Really?
They're just not putting them on. So Rico is very happy to be able to do that, and we have one scheduled, like I said, tentatively for January 11th. If we need another one, we'll do it 2 weeks later. So we're limited to 30 to start with, and that's why I was looking at the center down there. I thought that might be a good place for something along that line with the boater safety, et cetera. But thank you very much. Looking forward to this fall. Not.
Fall, Matt.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you. Treasurer Conduct.
Nothing, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Mike?
Yes, I believe Andy stated that the lake drawdown has been commencing, in process.
In process.
Just to let residents know, I know that I've gotten some questions about that. It's handling that well. Wanted to remind everyone that the veterans bricks are available. We sent out some, trying to be as big as we can about publicizing when we realized it wasn't in the Villager. Ran out of space there, but will be in the winter one to remind people. But these are the bricks that you can do. Bricks are us. You can come in here. We've been getting kind of an uptick in a couple people coming in with the signs that are on showing through the parks. Have gotten some people interested in it. So you can go to Bricks R Us. We have information here at the village. Just wanted to remind everyone about that. I am trying to set up, and I actually just got the email to set up a meeting with Oakland County. Thank you to Mr. Powell for giving me the contact to discuss the PFAS issue, because I've had some residents ask, because Glenberry Elementary had that issue, and so it's abutting on our property, Woodbury, so there's some issues, questions about that. So we're going to have a meeting with Health Department to kind of see, maybe how we can discuss those things. I think it's coming up. They want to set it up soon about that. Water Board, I think, as a couple times has discussed obtaining a dredge permit. When I spoke to Mr. Powell, he stated that you have to have a plan in place before you apply to Eagle to get it. So that's why we haven't gotten the dredge permit yet. We have to have a plan first, and then we'll apply. That's why it's not there. I saw that in the minutes a couple times. My 6-month review was completed. Thank you again for all of your input. It's very important to get that constructive kind of dialogue going on. It's been a great opportunity to work here, and thank you for that. Through the winter, I will be doing employee reviews as well to create kind of that more on an annual process, get that going. Again, a reminder, GFL will be moving the garbage collection to Mondays. I'll keep reiterating that as much as we can, because people will probably be there on that Tuesday in December and where's garbage. So they'll be starting, I believe it's December 2nd will be the first Monday. And we are working on a letter to be mailed out sometime in November to remind everyone. And we'll, again, social media push for all of that. Weed harvesting season is done and complete. I want to thank you to Grant, to the DPW for working hard for all of that. We had quite a year of weeds. And I believe our gentleman spoke at Water Board, or is going to.
He spoke Wednesday, well, it's in the minutes.
Okay.
And,
And he will.
Milfoil's down, actually.
Yeah, he will be
Yeah.
coming to the
Some
November
question
meeting
of
to give
getting
you
a smaller one.
the lake information as well, so we can kind of move forward with better plans. I did speak to Nathan about, a couple years ago, about some things when it was bad too, when he first started, and maybe we might have to discuss how to kind of reorient how we were treating and weed harvesting, but Grant did a great job in the DPW for pulling all them. We're gonna have, on the new website, we did have a great discussion that we'll have a better, I guess, visibility of weed harvesting, because we had a lot of questions where residents would be like, I've never seen him, but Grant was out there. He was out there. So we'll have, matched with the lake treatment map, we'll also have a thing where he actually harvested. I'm gonna try and have that information as much as we can push out there. He even said if I have to do it daily, whenever I'm out there, weekly, and he did agree that he will come back next year.
You
He
need
had
to
so much
paint the
fun.
harvester brighter. It's fading.
I don't know.
Put a red light
Something.
on it, flashing lights on it.
Oh, the buoys came out, so.
Yeah, he was cutting today.
What's that?
I think he was cutting today.
No.
wasn't he?
No,
No.
that was, we used that to pull the buoys out.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah. Again, packing parties on Saturday. I'll be there participating in that. Thank you to everyone doing all of that. And the CDBG, that will be coming up next month for a public hearing. They actually have, they just dropped it off today for fair housing. If anyone's interested, this informational flyer will be posted everywhere to attend a public forum about that. The closest one will be Wixom on October 23rd. I just wanted to, I think that is all that I have right now.
Thank you. Council comments.
I have a
Malik?
question for Mike. Anything new with the Spring Lake Heights Beach with the DEQ and Oakland County?
They came back and they said that they're beyond their testing, but next year it will be on their schedule to do their new procedural tests that test for what type of E. coli it is coming from, whether it be fowl, human, or, yeah.
Mhm.
So they'll be able to, that is gonna be a targeted thing. It is still closed. It's been closed since July.
Right, and that'll be next spring, right?
Correct. That it is on there. I've been calling them. Our sanitation experts come in. She went out there, investigated. I've had numerous discussions with them about the area, so we'll have to have some planning, because we might have to, as we discussed, put in an aeration, some sort of thing to kind of disturb the fowl from wanting to be there.
Well, the fall is not the water, they come up onto the beach
Yeah,
itself.
yeah.
And
Something.
That's
We have to
where
have
the
some-
problem
yeah.
lies.
Well, dogs aren't allowed, right?
No.
But there are a ton
No,
of.
because
Maybe need a couple
the
dogs.
geese, you don't need the dog piles, you got the geese.
I'm saying maybe the dogs that keep the geese away.
Well, I thank you for that. Now, I have additional,
Put the string.
with the people about parking their boats next to their houses, okay? I know we have an ordinance in the village that someone, like a backlot owner or something, can't put a boat at a person's house, okay?
That's docking.
Docking, right. Why does someone like this gentleman park somebody else's boat at his house? You know, I mean, I can't see what the sense is to that.
Because he has 2 pounds.
The lady, well, yeah, but they're not both his.
One's his and one's hers.
She said she had 2 boats. She said she had a pontoon and a speedboat.
Yeah, I'm talking about the gentleman with the 2 pontoons. Okay, I mean, if we have an ordinance that you can't put your power boat at somebody else's house, I should be able to take my little boat and park it in somebody else's yard? I don't think that's right.
No, it's not, that is not right. And I didn't catch, that was part of the conversation, that there was 2 pontoon boats. I believe what he was talking about was his and hers, because they live next to each other.
No, that ain't the way I got it.
Well, we'll find
Because-
out, and that's.
No, she said she had a
Find out.
pontoon, a watered sket, a power boat, 2 paddle boats.
2 kayaks, yeah.
I feel confident
Well-
between Jennifer and the chief, they can work it out.
Yeah, I think we can work it out.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, if we have one stipulation that you can't do it, why should that be allowed in another area, if that's the case?
But that's not the case, but okay. I get what you're saying.
Everybody's gotta go by the same rules.
That's it. Thank you.
Dave?
No comment.
John?
Let's go to administration, guys.
Walt?
Nothing.
Ed?
I got a couple quick ones. First of all, kudos to Grant McNutt. He put in 100 hours. That's the most hours we've had probably in 5 years on that harvester. How much?
Yeah, I think we're gonna get the total on Friday. We'd have the total.
120, that much better. Mark and I and his family went out to look at those structures that were put in, I don't know, 6, 7 years ago. And the map that they used to locate them was probably the most antiquated map we have in the village of the lake. And every place we went with the GPS was considerably deeper than 15 feet. One of them was actually in Lake St. Clair, the GPS number. There's 8 put out, and there was only 4 numbers, so it was definitely not a well-carried-out project. And the last thing, to the administrator, last year we had those orange rod sticks to put in the
Right.
ground. We should order some more of them, because they went
Wildfire.
like they were free.
Yeah.
And they were.
They were, yeah.
Yeah, you're right, John.
That's why they went so fast.
They went real fast, yeah.
Yeah, I have a question on that. I don't know if we bought 20 or 30 or whatever.
What the heck we get last year?
Yeah, we might consider
Not enough.
buying twice the,
Well, I tell you, if you're asking me for my input, I would say that there's very few people, as far as the amount of people that are in this community, that can run in and grab something for free. I'm not in favor of the program. I think for tax dollars, money that goes to a dozen people, they can, if you can afford to spend $2.50 for an orange steak, go buy your orange steak. It's not a business of the village handing out orange steaks to everybody. And I went around and did a survey on all the addresses that were there, and there was, I think, 3 or 4 of them were council members, and then there was 3 or 4 other ones that I checked the addresses.
Right.
And those things weren't even up on those homes.
well, all I know is.
So, for me, I thought it was a futile waste, and actually, I can say it as a taxpayer, Andrew Stone,
Right.
235 Wabasso. I don't appreciate my money being spent that way.
Okay, I don't either, but when I look across the street and for 5 years running, they come down the street when there's nothing there and they tear a foot up of the neighbor's lawn.
$2.50, sir.
Well, it's just the idea that then they have to look at
That's what I was
where
gonna
they're
ask.
plowing.
Does it help you guys plow? Yeah.
I bought 5 of them, like you said, $2.50.
I got 4 from last year. I'll use them again this year on my corner, right where the rocks are, because they moved the big
I
rocks.
don't see it being a proper usage of taxpayers' dollars.
People want them, they can buy them
It's not helping
themselves.
my department plow better, more efficiently, and for the cost of $2.50 to a resident. I don't think we should stand and call it hotcakes. It's a different program than if we were doing the leaf bag program. We initiated something, there is residue left over. That's like handing out snow shovels, because I didn't get all the snow off the road, you know? So to me.
Well,
that's
Andy,
just
we
my
give out
opinion.
bags, we give out insect spray, and we're doing this.
Insect spray is a grant through Oakland County.
Yeah, that comes through Oakland
We don't
County.
pay for that.
Okay.
That's all. grant.
Bags too?
No.
I'm sorry?
Oh, the bug spray, but not the bags.
Right. The council decided to continue on with the bags. After we finished our first batch, they lasted probably 5 years. And council decided to continue on the next batch. We've had those for about a year, and I'm not sure if we're gonna make it completely through this year, so we're starting to gain popularity, people understand, and it's council's discretion. But for $2.50 snow steak, that very few people, and if you're gonna say how many we're gonna buy now and just give stuff away, get on to Bernie Sanders' bench wagon. I tell you what, I don't know. That's all I got to say.
Okay,
He had a heart attack, so.
I think we
that's
beat
all.
that one to death.
Yeah.
The only thing I've really got is hope to see everybody at the packing party Saturday morning,
Yeah.
and I'll be glad to get my garage back. So. I haven't seen my wife a whole lot lately.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Motion by Segwin, second by Malik. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr.